Look at us now, tip to tip.
Jesus.
Oh.
Shout out to Morning Kombat.
Do you want a margarita?
Yes!
My God!
Shout out to us, doing what we love. It's time to bang. Oh, yeah. Luke Thomas is away on vacay. The homeless cat's got to play. Come on in. It's Morning Kombat, and it's a big one here. Monday, July 21st, 2025. It is weekend recap time after a loaded combat sports buffet that we saw this weekend. I'm Brian Campbell. Welcome on into the best damn combat sports show that they've got going today. Period. Yeah, you heard that right. Okay. Still here, right? Still fighting for survival and still going to absolutely bring it. Let's go. Follow the show, like the show, subscribe to the show right there. You see the handles of our team. While Luke Thomas is away, we have two absolutely elite guests filling in today. Top of the hour, we'll bring on the New York Times bestselling author and my boxing podcast partner on Inside the Box, the great Rafe Bartholomew. We'll recap everything from Pacquiao to Usyk, Bam Rodriguez, and everything else that went on in the squared circle over the weekend. But how about this guest to kick things off right freaking now? For the first time in the 6 years of Morning Kombat, as we're just 2 weeks off of the show's birthday, my former colleague at ESPN.com and one of the finest analysts and writers today. And yes, we always have to say it, the man who Joanna Jędrzejczyk once said was the best looking media member in the world today, Brett Okamoto of ESPN. Dude, we finally got this together. What happened? Great to see you live from Las Vegas, bro.
There are two ways to look at when you say this is the first time I've been on in the 6-year history of the show. There's a way of saying, oh my God, this is a big deal. I'm very excited. Or like, wow, they didn't invite this guy on for 6 years. So they must have gotten a lot of no's. People must have been very busy for Brett Okamoto to be joining the show.
Wow. Like I said off show, I just always assume you're better than us, Brett. But, maybe it's not you. Maybe it's us at the end of the day. Either way, live from your bomb shelter, it seems, there in Las Vegas. Thank you for waking up very early. You just got back, I believe, from UFC 318 in New Orleans over the weekend. So top of the morning to you. And, we're fired up to have you. No question about it. Damn, what a weekend. I mean, you're here to talk some MMA, but did you check out Pacquiao? Did you check out Usyk? This is one of the better combat couple days we've ever had.
I didn't, because obviously I was, they're going on simultaneously. Teddy Atlas was actually up at our desk and he was sitting there. And it did cross my mind. It was cool to see how much Teddy Atlas still loves boxing. He was locked into the prelims. And then obviously when Dustin walked out, that was what he was there for, to talk on our show about Dustin. So then he watched Dustin. But I don't know if I'm fortunate enough to make it to Teddy Atlas's place in life and, with the age and the money and where he's at. I don't know if I'll be watching UFC prelims still by then. I just don't know if I love it that much, but Teddy Atlas still loving the sport of boxing that much. I'm telling you, prelim, Brian, if I stepped in that man's way to go get a water or something, yeah. I mean, he's going like this. So that was incredible to see. So I didn't really get to see the boxing, but I got to see some of the results, and it did look like it was a good card.
Yeah. Theo Von style being there from fight number one on the evening. Quick reminder of the fans, you may have already known it, but today's episode of Morning Kombat is brought to you by, how about Cuervo? Yes, now's a good time to remember where tequila's story truly began. In 1795, Cuervo invented tequila, and since then, Cuervo has stayed true to its roots. We're talking same family, same land. How about that same passion? Because 230 years later, Cuervo's still here in every pour, in every margarita, in every celebration. So enjoy the tequila that started it all. Yeah, that's Cuervo, the tequila that invented tequila, ProximoCuervo.com. Please drink responsibly. And thank you, of course, to Cuervo for sponsoring our UFC 318 pregame preview last week with Jed Meshew, number 2. What a rip-roaring affair. How about that Devil's Reserve? That's some of the good stuff out there. That's a dangerous tool that you can put down, brought to you by Cuervo. Before we get into Brett's reaction to all things UFC 318, Jon Jones on the White House lawn and PFL South Africa, let's welcome in the third member of today's show. He's a producer, director, bong enthusiast, and he's here on a one-way ticket from a horned Australian man's ball bag. It's Long Island Luke Nocita of the Main Card Minute, and I'm sure you were jamming over the weekend on that Main Card Minute channel. Welcome on in, Luke.
Hey, you guys. Good to be here. Dude, we were hyped over the weekend. We had Costello Van Steenis by sub at plus 1,200 on the bet generator. So huge hit on that. Also had Paulo Costa on the 318. That was a fat dog. So good weekend overall betting.
All right, Long Island, look, you've been on the show a long time. Getting Brett Okamoto today, this is a big deal for him.
This is big. I feel very corporate today. I feel like we've made it to the big time. We got Brett, so good to have you here, Brett. Thanks for joining.
Brett, couple factoids between you and I before we start. You and I go way back. In fact, you and I, 2016, we were the editor-writer relationship there on the ESPN.com and MMA page, ready to take over the world together. And is it still true that you once sold a house to Francis Ngannou in Las Vegas?
Actually, that is not true. That is not true. I sold my house to a very nice family from California who then moved into it. Apparently did not, because obviously I took all of my things when I left, but I guess I left some fight posters hanging in my garage. And apparently this family never took them down. And they only lived there for like 4 months because something happened. They had to go back to California. And when they were showing the house to different people, some guy walks in the garage and he was like, you like fights? And they're like, no, the guy who lived here before was a big fight guy. And he was, he had all these posters up, and Francis is like, I fought on that card that poster is up. I don't remember what the poster was, but so then Francis came and told me, and yeah, he's still, far as I know, owns the house. He did live in it up until a couple of years ago. Maybe he still does. I don't know. But
well, I have to tell you, I interviewed him before his rematch with Curtis Blades, in which he did the interview in a car outside of his house. And I asked him, I'm like, hey, man, I heard you bought a house from Brett Okamoto. He's like, what? What'd you hear? And I was, trying to be me. So I'm like, hey, man, did he leave anything behind? What'd you find? Some nudie mags in the dresser? And his response was so awkward, like I had violated his personal freedoms, that we edited that out of the interview afterwards.
He actually didn't like anyone talking about it. So like, and then of course here you are still talking about it. It's 12 years later. But yeah, he was like right when the Apex got built, like he would still hand me mail sometimes.
That's a wild relationship. You and I have had a fun up and down. In fact, Long Island Luke put together a slideshow here as we go back down memory lane. Let's look back at the great times we've had. Hey, UFC 199, Brett, you and I, right?
Is that us? Look at that.
That is us. And then there's you in Atlanta shaking that awkward statue's hand at UFC 199. Oh, a Braves game. Look at this. This is great. Memory lane. And then us with Arash, of course, at UFC 205.
Dude.
Yeah, what a time. What a time. And you're still there at the Worldwide Leader. How many years right now?
15 at ESPN.
15, dude.
No editor ever as good as BC.
Wow. Yeah, thank you for that. Thank you. I appreciate that. And also, I may be doing okay these days, but you and I we put together a podcast called 5 Rounds, on ESPN.com MMA that, really had a bright future until it was
still get asked about 5 rounds on a daily basis. I know you do as well.
Thank you very much. All right, enough of this schlobbing on the bone here. Let's get into the big topics. And about topic number 1 already, UFC 318 in the Crescent City over the weekend, the goodbye to the one Dustin Poirier, dropping a unanimous decision to Max Holloway in their trilogy. Also, Max defending the BMF title. So from that tear-inducing retirement video package played for Poirier to really just the perfect exit anyone could ever ask for, headlining a pay-per-view in your home state, chosen, friendly, respected opponent in Max Holloway, and of course the BMF title on the line. It really was a chef's kiss for the great Poirier, except for that result, of course. But Brett, what do you believe, since you were there in New Orleans on Saturday, what did that main event and that performance from Poirier and the love that he received from the company, the sport, and the crowd there, what did that say about the impact, in your opinion, that Poirier has had in this sport through 32 walks to the UFC octagon?
Yeah, man. I mean, you do have to give the UFC credit for nailing the presentation of this and all the circumstances of it, because it provided the right opportunity for people to really express how much he meant to them. Now, having said that, I think you could do all of that build up for someone other than Dustin, and it wouldn't even come close to it, because I feel like Dustin's is emotional. There's a lot of other guys where they would receive a lot of accolades, they would receive a lot of praise, we'd be going through their careers, they'd be watching videos of themselves, and of course it would be emotional, but it would not be to the same level of just this fan sort of connectedness that Dustin has. And I think that's just because, I mean, it's pretty effortless. It's also through, of course, his charitable works, but it's just because he's so just a normal guy. You know, Dustin Poirier is just a normal guy who I said after the, you know, of course we were talking about it afterwards on the show, on the post show, and I was like, if MMA had never gotten popular and there was no money in it, and they were still taking place in barns and you know, bars in Iowa and Indiana and wherever, smokers in California, like he'd still be doing it. You know, I mean, he just had fight in him that had to come out, and everybody got to see that over the course of a 15-year career. So I think I don't know how these guys do it where they nail the walkouts, you know, where the music is just so synced to like when they emerge from the tunnel. Like it's not like they really practice this thing. And being there in person, the crowd was really loud. I mean, it was kind of quiet and subdued when he was like making his walk out. And then when the beat hit and Lil Wayne was behind him, and then he comes out, and again, give the UFC credit for the production value of it. The camera's behind him, the lights are shining. Like it was perfect, man. It really was. The crowd was so good that once all that happened, it really didn't matter what happened in the fight, frankly.
Sure.
However, it would have sucked if he would have been finished in the first round or second round and not even really gotten going. But once he then hurt Max and then jumped on that guillotine, like if he would have got that guillotine, Brian, like maybe we should, like, let's just pack it up and everybody go home, dude. That's peak MMA. You're never going to see anything that tops it if he hits that guillotine in the second round. So he didn't win, but who cares? Like, it was perfect. It was great. And I think everybody feels that way, right?
I fully agree. And I always felt like Robbie Lawler got the best send off with that video package. The fact that he delivered the first round KO, it was on the featured prelim before pay-per-view. But this is a pay-per-view main event in a, you know, ceremonial title fight against the perfect opponent. And I want to ask you about that idea of the perfect opponent. I don't think maybe since WrestleMania 6 in Toronto in 1990 have we had two baby faces, you know, facing off like Hogan and the Ultimate Warrior there like we had here. There was so much damn Bushido around the octagon, around the arena. Did Max get cheered as well, or did he get that visiting city boo from the crowd?
He got like that boo, but we don't want to boo you, you know. It was kind of like you know, like but it was not like you know, when there's a villain type boo, it was nothing like that. It was they just weren't going to give the guy any love, you know. And I mean, every single shirt was Dustin Poirier, as it should be. I think every single person in the crowd, I felt like, was wearing a Dustin Poirier shirt. And the prelims were good. The crowd showed up early. So yeah, he got the appropriate meeting. And then like Max is just I mean, I think as we transition off of Dustin retiring and we start to move forward, Max is going to get a ton of love, and he already is. He's already getting a ton of love, but it's really going to start to sink in, like the performance that he had, him pointing down at the end and still being game for that kind of stuff. And I mean, still, like you can point down and kind of fake it, like, or you can point down and literally like put your face out and your hands down, which is what Max does. Like if he's going to point down, he's going to go all in. Like he ain't going to half point down, you know? So I think, and then obviously, like he says what he says so fast on the mic that you can barely hear him, and then he gives the floor to Dustin. Like he's gonna get so much love for that, the entire way he handled that, and it was a good performance by him. So
it was so, like I said, so much Bushido for all the BS in MMA today. When we get these wholesome, good moments like this, I want to savor them. Kudos to the UFC for the video package, the way they handled Dustin, and he really is a unique American hero in a lot of ways. I compare him, even though UFC doesn't recognize anymore that Randy Couture ever fought for the promotion, I compare him to the sort of superhero love that the Natural gets still to this day. And shout out to him recovering from the burns of that NHRA clash. He'll be joining us later in the show. It's a nice running bit there. But the point here, Brett, is that like so beloved, maybe the, you know, among the one or two best resumes of a fighter to never win a undisputed title, but has such a great resume that it doesn't matter. Long Island Luke, can you flash that full screen of just the names and faces that Poirier has fought over his 16 years as a pro, from the pound for pound king Makhachev, who he rallied back to save face in that matchup? How about 3 fights with Max Holloway? How about 3 fights with Conor McGregor, 2 with Eddie Alvarez, 2 with Justin Gaethje? Fought all the action heroes of his division, of his era, from Dan Hooker there to Chandler, Korean Zombie, so many great names. Brett, is there a unique way to, I guess, surmise what Poirier's individual legacy and sort of is after this? Because, man, was he game. But some people are criticizing Demetrius Johnson for that immediate reaction where he's like, well, he was a heck of a brawler. He was obviously a lot more than that. How do you sort of put it to words?
Yeah, I mean, it'd be like talking about, maybe certain players around, the Jordan era, or talking about certain players around, you see in these other sports where it's just like there can only be one best, and I mean, if you're talking about Dustin Poirier's era, like Habib, like no one could beat that guy, and then as far as the rest of them, a lot of it comes down to timing, man. If timing just would have like moved a little bit here, a little bit there, if one matchup would have came sooner than another, if he would have fought for a vacant belt, if he would have been coming off of a win instead of a title loss here or there, it's just like the belt could have been around his waist at any time,
I mean, he could have fought the belt again, but he chose the 2 pay-per-views with Conor, which, I don't hate him for that.
Oh, dude, and I'm sure his bank account sure doesn't hate him for that. And I'm sure to this day, I would hope that he would say that was the right decision, because it absolutely was the right decision. But that's kind of how I look at it. Like, was he Habib? No, but who's Habib? Habib is like, top 2, top 3 fighter of all time. So it's like he fought in a very competitive division at a time and an era when that division was really on fire. I mean, all of those guys throughout his era. I mean, he beat guys that, some of those guys towards the bottom of that list that you just showed are still phenomenal. I mean, lightweight has just been extremely deep the entire time Poirier has competed in it. And, by some circumstance, like, again, one zig there, one zag there. I mean, we know guy misses weight and then the UFC is scrambling, puts together a title fight. Like, any one of these fights could have been for a championship. So he won an interim championship. He was kind of an uncrowned champion, if you want to put it that way. But I don't know, man. I really don't think, like, I know some people call him like, oh, this is like one of the greatest fighters to never win a belt. Like, to me, the belt doesn't even come to mind. Like, to me, that's the best way to describe Dustin Poirier. Is when I think about his career, I don't even think about a belt. I don't even think about like, oh, did he win it? Did he not win it? Oh, he won an interim title. How many times did he fight for it? Like, I even forgot the other night when I was writing the news story about it. I forgot how many times he fought for the belt, because I don't care, dude. I mean, I just know that he was one of the best of a very great era. And he could have worn the belt at any time. It just so happened that it never found its way around his waist.
Yeah, such an honest style, such a great interview from the standpoint that he does bring it to you, real philanthropist, family man. Look, he got the right amount of flowers. He deserved it. He did not get the score, though, the decision in the end. And that was certainly justified because 33-year-old Max Holloway looked like the fresher fighter. Like Luke Thomas had said in the buildup, had added certain elements to his game in recent fights and, still showed you he has a lot left. It would go down in the end, 2 judges, 49-46, 1 judge, 48-47. Brett, how did you score it? And which rounds do you think were fine to score for Poirier? I had a 4-1 giving Poirier round 2. How did you see it?
Yeah, exact same. I didn't think it was that hard of a fight to score. And I think everyone sort of around me was saying the same thing. We were kind of keeping track, of course I'm up there on the suite. I'm with like Alan Joban, Chael, Dominic, and Brendan Fitzgerald had already gone down because we had 2 desks in the arena. But like the rest of our the ESPN crew was there, and we always do this through the main event. Like, what do you got it? 2-2, 1-1, whatever. And everybody had a 3-1, man, going into the 5th, and everyone, and then yeah, of course Max won the 5th. So I thought it was pretty easy, and I think that just shows again, Dustin. The career is over, man. It doesn't matter if you won or lost. And he was salty about it, man. He really was. Not in like a poor loser kind of way, but it just shows, dude, that guy is just a competitor. He's a competitor. I was having this conversation with Oscar Willis from the Mac Life, who and he was kind of laughing that he was like, during that entire video package, I felt like Dustin was just sitting there being like, I won that fight, dude. I don't know what these judges are looking at. It's just like, it was so true. It was so true.
That's the old Juan Manuel Marquez. There's never been a post-fight interview after a loss where he didn't angrily say that he thought he won right there. Really nice performance from Max, who to be fair, like we never know these days, fight to fight, if we feel like maybe he's showing signs of going in the other direction. Still only 33, but has been through the wars so aggressively, yet constantly reinvents himself. There was some question coming in. I mean, enough for me to pick Poirier as the underdog to win, considering Max was coming off that KO loss to Poirier. But in true Max fashion, he sort of pretty quickly showed you that he still got it. Do you think he made certain adjustments from the first two fights against Poirier to be able to cleanly, somewhat, not dominantly, but cleanly get a victory here? Or do you think maybe he was just the fresher fighter at the end of the day?
Well, I would hope he made adjustments. They were 6 years ago and 12 years ago. You know, I mean, the guy is just a much better fighter than he was. And just to be fair, the circumstances around their first two fights is just like they do kind of toss him out the window in my mind. Going into the third one, I did feel like this was a completely new fight. So sometimes that gets cliche to say, but this one, in this case, it really was to me. I mean, you're talking about a situation where like it has been 6 years since the last one, and then prior to that, 12. So like you could really throw the 12 one out. And then the 6-year one, if I'm remembering the circumstances correctly, did they not want, they wanted Tony, right? They wanted Tony Ferguson to fight Dustin Poirier for the interim title. And then Tony was in it. I think he was in a contract dispute where he didn't feel like it was also just Tony Ferguson, right? And
Sure.
that guy didn't make great business decisions along the course of his career at times. But for whatever reason, I think that they were really going, if I'm remembering this right, they were going for Tony. Went down the wire, didn't happen. So then they turned to Max. Max is like, of course, I'm game. Goes up. Everybody remember. I mean, he even made a joke about it to me before the fight. That like the only thing I remember about the second fight is that everybody told me I had the DC bodysuit on because he had that little pouch on him. You know, he didn't have the abs. And I mean, I just think that I figured it was gonna be a completely different third fight. I mean, Max. He loved being at featherweight. He stayed at featherweight until it was essentially like, dude, you can't stay at featherweight. Like, there's literally no fight for you anymore. I always thought this was going to be a better weight class for him. The guy's big, man. I mean, you saw him next to Dustin. Like, he's big. So I think that just from size alone, and I got to be honest, and I said this before, I was in favor of Max moving on to 155 even before he did. You know, I think he's going to be good in this weight class. But to your point, he is at that point in his career where he's just put on so many miles that you just kind of like cross your fingers and hope that the decline doesn't come, because and this is nothing against him, but it's just like from a physiological standpoint, it's going to come at some point. So you just hope it's not coming anytime soon, but it could at any moment. But he's in a very good weight class for him now, man. I mean, the speed is still there. And then, you know, one thing that we said about like, after watching that Dustin fight in Atlanta, it's like, well, does he have the power? Does he have the power to be at 55? Like, he hurt Dustin like that. You know, he knocked out Gaethje immediately. He hurt Gaethje before knocking him out in that fight. So I think he does have power, and I think technically he's getting better. So yeah, if he doesn't turn old overnight, which because of his long career he could, but if he doesn't, then he's very legitimate in this weight class, of course.
He talked afterwards, saying he could chase some big BMF names, but the recurring idea of him getting a rematch against Ilia Topuria, who has moved up after their title fight at featherweight to capture that vacant lightweight title. When you look at the landscape of this division, Brett, is it realistic for the idea of Max getting a second shot at Topuria, considering his star value, considering that just in this division alone in his last two fights, he's finished Justin Gaethje, who's still in the title picture, and he sent Poirier into retirement with a strong victory?
No, zero chance. Especially, are we talking about next?
I'm trying to gauge where do you think he should go? I mean, is he farther away than he thinks he is to a title shot, you think?
I even think that he knows he's not close, but you're going to say it. Of course, you're going to say what you want, but realistically, how far away is he from Ilia? As of right now, pretty far, I would think. And that's not even from like a ranking standpoint. Yeah, he just beat Dustin Poirier, but he just lost to Ilia Topuria in October, and Ilia is like superstar trajectory right now. You're not going to then rewind him and put him against a guy he just knocked out at the end of last year. That just makes no sense. There's bigger fights, there's fresher fights, there's new fights for Ilia Topuria. That's unfortunate for Max Holloway, but he's been there before with Volkanovski and having to win 3 fights to get back to a trilogy fight. So I think what's working in Max's favor, of course, is that he's a big name. But then there are also other names for him. And like this BMF thing that like I felt barely got mentioned last week. It was just that it was completely I don't think really anybody's cared all that much about the
I
BMF.
think we're over it. Brett, to be fair, I think this fight didn't need it, and I'm kind of over it.
Yeah,
Like, it was great. It was cool, but I'm over it. You know?
And I think a lot of people are over it. Like, it doesn't hurt anything. Like, I'm not like, get it out of there. You know, like this is crap. Like, I don't care about that. But I don't think anybody is really paying attention to it anymore. But
Right.
I feel like it can stick around in this instance just to like add like a slightly new layer, give these guys something to fight for, because there are fights to have for it. I think Charles Oliveira is the most obvious one. And I think like Max mentioning it post fight shows that he thinks it's the most obvious one. Like there are two guys who are an all action style. You put them on a poster, dude, I want to see it. And I actually think that you could recreate this scenario that we just had, send Max to Brazil, let him be the bad guy again against Charles Oliveira. I've wanted to see Charles Oliveira walk out of the tunnel in Brazil for a while. He never got to do so as a champion. And I mean, he has over the course of his career. But, you know, he was Charles Oliveira, like the quitter, but like also like the submission guy. And then like, you know, he's just like fighting not like an active guy, like he was fine and he was up there ranked, but then he had this like renaissance, right? Where he had a champion, he put away all of the quitter stuff. You know, he got knocked down, rise up, you know, the champion has a name. He turned into superstar. He hasn't been to Brazil since then. So I would love to see him walk out of the tunnel since he's gotten this, you know, superstar aura, and to have Max go down there and fight him. And then you can have the BMF belt down there. And it's similar to this one. Take the guy, put him in his own home state or country, like we did with Dustin, have Max walk out. From a ranking standpoint, it makes sense. And then depending on what happens, you know, there are other BMF fights you can make as you kind of allow Max to sort of settle into this division. But unfortunately, if Ilya has the belt, like you got Islam, you got Arman, you got Patty, you got Gaethje, it's not going to happen. So, and I think he knows that. I truly think he knows that. And so it's just like settle in at this weight class, take the fights that make sense, make them big, put a BMF belt on it, and just wait. And if you happen to win all those fights and Ilya's still there, then maybe you can go after him. Or if he loses, then you know you never know what's going to happen after that.
Yeah, indeed. You mentioned earlier that there was what was teased, pointing to the ground, final 10 seconds. We of course saw that at UFC 199 with Ricardo Lamas, resurrected so beautifully at UFC 300 against Gaethje. Here's though Poirier talking about an area where he did get a little bit of criticism, that he was shooting for a takedown in the midst of all that action. Let's hear it.
Yeah, and then I was like, I wanted to do it, you know. That's why I kept looking up at the clock. I said, when are we doing this? Yeah, you saw me looking at the clock a few times. I'm like, well, okay, that's 25 seconds left. I said, not time yet. Then we pointed down. I said, okay, I oblige. And then he hit me with a few shots. And I said, okay, we're going to wrestle a little bit. Let me clinch up. There's only 8 seconds left.
Good stuff there from him. My highlight of the night was the two of them finding out they did not win the bonus backstage and seeing this interaction between them. Like I said, so much BS in this game. I love feel-good moments like this. Let's listen in on that.
Bro, how did we not get fight tonight, bro? We didn't? No, it's some bullshit. Go tell Dana. What? Take you tell me man. Text his ass. We didn't get it? No. They gave it to freaking Allen and Matar. I don't even know. What? We done almost finished each other in the same damn round. Yeah. What the hell, bro? You got the belt. You're the champ. Thank you, bro. Hey, it was an honor, bro. No, it really was such an honor. Your right hand hurt? Yeah, bro. I hit your fat head, bro. My thumb. I'm like, bro. My thumbs are hurting. Yeah, my thumb hurting too.
Brett, you were there. Was that the fight of the night in your eyes?
Yeah, I think so. Although I do think Brendan Allen and Martin Vettori was a good fight. I really did like that fight. And sometimes I think the UFC can get kind of lazy and just make the fight of the night bonus, just the main event, just because it was the main event. So I don't know, man. We could sit here and always complain about where the bonuses go. I pretty much never agree with them.
Well, those two guys are well paid though, so I'm fine. You know, if they're
I'm fine seeing it. You know, I'm fine seeing 50 G's go to Marvin and Brendan. I'm sure these guys made their money, but that interaction is phenomenal. I love it.
It's so good. This wasn't the only fight on the card. Wasn't a great or overly deep pay-per-view card. It did have its moments. One of those moments being in the co-main event as middleweight Paulo Costa at age 34. Having lost 4 of his last 5, you could see the urgency in there that he needed a win, and he delivered it against a streaking Roman Kopylov. Brett, I have been very critical of Costa since the loss to Adesanya. I don't feel like he sticks to game plans. He fights as recklessly as he tweets at times, but this looked like not just a fighter that was a class above Kopylov, but I felt like it was an efficient use of his destructive tools to go out there and score a wide decision. How impressed were you by this performance?
Yeah, impressed and very happy to see it. I mean, you and I are on the exact same page as Costa. it's a better division when he is around. It's a more entertaining division when he's around, you know. And but he's got to be a decent version of himself. And in the past, I mean, you had that entire Marvin Vettori thing, which was just wild, you know. Just like I'm not showing up on weight. Like if you won't let me fight, then fine, you know. Like we're gonna make up a weight when we get there, you know. And and then again, like it just kind of didn't feel like he cared about winning. It kind of felt like I'm gonna go in and I know I'm a big strong guy and I'm gonna throw my combinations. And if the other guy falls down, great. If not, then whatever, you know. It just kind of felt like he wasn't there. And I mean, I want to say this all, of course, respectfully. The guy's crawling in there with some of the best in the world, and it's easy when you start losing to Robert Whitaker when things aren't going good against Sean Strickland, and Sean Strickland's in your face with it's just, you know, this thing constantly, and it's like you can't get off. I get it, but also it's just like it didn't look like there were any adjustments being made. It didn't look like there was like, to your point, game plan or sticking to a game plan. That's what was impressive to me about Costa on this one, is that he just looked focused. He looked focused and like he really cared about the outcome. So, and when he does, he's good. You know, Kopylov is good, and it's not easy to win a decision against him, especially for a guy like Costa who has been, you know, if the knockout doesn't come, then you wonder what he's going to look like in the later rounds. And he was still there. You know, he was still there, and again, the focus was there. So I liked it. It was great to see, because there are still some fun fights to have with Costa if he wants to fight, you know. And there for a while, it's like not only the performance in the octagon made you wonder if he wanted to fight, but then like what he was even saying, like, let me out of my contract. I don't want to do this anymore. You know, he's very upset about his contract. So
he's also like
good to see him.
Casually racist in a very aggressive manner on Twitter, Brett. I don't know what's going on over there. You know?
All that as well. Yeah.
All right. I mean, some people were putting up the picture of him and Tracy Cortez and saying maybe this was the reason. Normally on this show, we're not allowed to talk about power couples in MMA, and I don't even know if they ever have been or are, because of Luke Thomas's preference to talk about his own shitting history instead. But is that you're on the ground out there? Are they a thing or no?
Well, I didn't even know that. I wasn't even aware of this. Yeah,
well, I'm wondering if it was, because I saw a lot of people putting that picture out there, and I'm like, you know, I get it.
The internet detectives are usually, when they get onto something, they're usually not wrong. So I don't know, maybe I wouldn't dismiss it, but I can't share any evidence in support of it.
Appreciate it. Brian Ortega, never the same since the ending of that. When we look up and down this card, look, Kevin Holland is determined to be the next Cowboy Cerrone and take sometimes unnecessarily short turnaround fights. Usually, though, that happens at middleweight, where he hurts his own further momentum and standing by just staying active, cashing paychecks, and fighting whoever's available. At 170, it seemed like he was putting together a little bit of a run, coming in there against a 30-year-old Daniel D-Rod Rodriguez, who had been on a pretty rough streak himself of losses of late. I assumed Holland would continue streaking toward an eventual, you know, knock on the door of real title contention at 170. Instead, he fought a head tattooed version of D-Rod who was aggressively looking to save his job. And I really think he did just that. An impressive and at times powerful unanimous decision victory. But Brett, I know this is par for the course in the Kevin Holland experience, but dude, come on, put it together. Take 6 months off. Show me what you got.
You got sometimes you gotta let people be who they are, BC. You know, you can't care about Holland's 170-pound run more than Kevin Holland. You know, you're setting yourself up for disappointment. You want to come on here and yell angrily at your camera about Kevin Holland. I have too. When I've interviewed him, I've been like, dude, can you please just stay at 170 and can we see what you got? He wants to cash checks, man, and that's fine. And then you know what? And credit to him, because he could have found a way out of that fight and still cash his check. But he made that fight really, really, really entertaining by coming back, by fighting with a sense of urgency. So, you know, he is a Cowboy Cerrone guy, and it was frustrating. That's the perfect comparison. I started laughing when the way even you said it. He is determined to be Donald Trump. And I would get mad at Cowboy Cerrone. I'd be like, dude, what are you doing? Like for what? For $100,000 show purse, you're going to put on the line something? You could be in a title fight and like one more win, you know? And it's just, can't do it, man. Can't do it. They see a cliff. They got to jump off it. They see it.
Yeah, same thing Luke says about fighter pay. If they're not going to care, us in the media might have to just continue to move on and enjoy the fights. I did enjoy Patricio Pitbull getting back on track, scoring our first UFC victory in a fight against Dan Ige that was tense at times, technical. There were some action moments. There was a Spider-Man meme feeling of how they were sized perfectly. But to see Pitbull come in, maybe we're talking about him getting a title shot off of a win if he could get by Yair Rodriguez. Instead, he had a flat performance. We don't have a lot of Pitbull left at this age, but what do you make of the version we did see on Saturday? Oh, yeah.
That's BC. You want to say hello to BC?
Hi.
What's your little man's first name here, Brett? He's so
What's your
big
name?
now.
What's your name real quick? Cam.
Cam, yes. Cam, you want to see my new glasses? All the kids love this trick, all right?
What's he doing?
Yeah, there we go. Well, he's like, Dad, get off of this show now, Dad, please.
All right, yeah, I'm going to be done here in like 10 minutes, okay? You go play for 10 more minutes, I'll be done. Okay. 10 minutes, all right? 10 minutes, or I won't help you if you don't go back.
Okay, well, geez,
All right.
please don't.
Wow. He looks like a mini Rush Holloway right there. So shout out to him right there. Right?
Nice, yeah, I'll take that. That's a compliment. Rush is a good-looking kid.
Real wholesome moment there, Brett. Thank you.
Oh, of course, man. Yeah, you can lock him out, but then he's just gonna start banging. So you're better off just bringing him in. We were talking about Patricio and Danny.
Yeah, look, it's the end of his run. How much left does he have after this victory in your eyes?
I mean, to win a title is very, very hard, right? And so then to do it at the end of a very long career is like, do I expect him? Are the odds with him? No, they're not. But your boys were talking about how they had some good underdog picks. This I thought the line was insane. I mean, the fact that Patricio Pitbull comes in and looked like he just couldn't really get out of first gear against Yair Rodriguez, who is, by the way, very good, younger, and it's his first time coming over to the UFC. To then just think that Dan Ige was like a 2.5 to 1 favorite over Patricio Pitbull, I was like, dang, that's crazy to me, man. It's like, I'm not so sure. Pitbull looked a little hesitant in his last fight, but he didn't look like super old, right? So I think that he's a competitive fight for just about everyone in that division. I mean, if he gets his wish and he were to fight Aaron Pico, are we so sure that he can't beat Aaron Pico? And I mean, Aaron Pico being injected into this division is super, super interesting, exciting. I would love to see him fight Alex Volkanovski, but are we so sure that Pitbull can't beat him? Like, no, not at all. So I think he's still got an outside shot at if the cards fall right, he could fight for a championship, and he still has that history of being that long reigning champion. So the UFC could look at that and be like, in the right circumstance, we could promote this guy. We could call him this monster that would rule the world outside of the UFC for a very long time. So he's still there. He's still got a chance. And he did a couple things to Dan Ige that just doesn't happen to Dan Ige very often. Cracked him, threw him around a little bit. Like, Dan Ige has never fought for a championship himself, but he's not a guy that he always gives everybody a tough fight. And Pitbull, some of the things he did in that fight showed that he still has some things to offer. Is it likely? Most likely, probably not, but I wouldn't rule it out.
Yeah, I just like to get more chances to see the captain's bedazzled jeans in the corner there. Shout out to Eric Alburacin. Long Island Luke, what do you got on this undercard? Yeah, I know you picked up some big betting money over there on PFL, but who stood out to you on this undercard?
I mean, dude, the prelims were actually sick on this. We started, 6 straight finishes, 5 of them first-round finishes. I got to give a shout-out to Gauthier knocking out Robert Valentin. That was pretty sick. Islam Dulatov looked damn good against Adam Fugit. My boy Jimmy Crute got one of the ugliest arm bars I've ever seen, but shout out to him getting back on the win column. Ryan Spann got that guillotine. How about Carly Judy's, dude? She looks damn good. She got another knockout win, only ever won by finish.
And you're talking about her performance, right? Not her Instagram.
Yes,
right?
yes.
Okay. All right. I appreciate that distinction. Also, 39-year-old Michael Johnson to close out that main card, Brett. He's on a win streak of 3 right now and sending Daniel Zellhuber to a second straight defeat after a big trash talk build before them. What do we got here? Just a little old resurgence for the one-punch knockout machine, Michael Johnson?
Yeah. I mean, it doesn't have to be more than that, man. Throw him out there and let him go. And the hand speed is still there somehow at 39. I mean, Michael Johnson is not the young kid coming off The Ultimate Fighter anymore, but when he starts throwing in the pocket, you can remember just like, dude, that was always what stood out to me about him. First, he was like a little reckless. Like, Michael Johnson was the kind of guy that would fall over when no one touched him. But then he was also just like, his hand speed was still there. So it was fun to watch, man, because Michael Johnson is a very nice guy. Very nice guy. You saw that afterwards. Like, he was pretty disrespected by Zellhuber in the way that the fight played out, how it was booked. But then he was just so quick to to give that kid credit. Like, I like Michael Johnson. Was happy to see him get the win. And then he mentioned, did I really win by decision? Because I've always been a little salty about some of the split decisions that haven't gone his way. So it was nice to see.
Yeah, it did feel like by the time Alexander Hernandez woke up Cowboy Dad Cerrone there and found out about that just the same. All right, 2 quick ones for you on the way out here, Brett. Great to have you reunite here on today's Morning Kombat. Topic number 2 is from what we heard after UFC 318, Dana White addressing the media and that recurring topic of Jon Jones maybe coming back after retirement, re-entering the testing pool and fighting whoever is champion on the White House lawn. Not so fast, my friend. The boss has spoken. Let's listen.
One sec here. Sorry, guys.
Yeah, I know you've got a lot of questions about the White House card potentially. Conor McGregor has said he's back in the pool with hopes of potentially fighting on that like a year from now. And then Nate Diaz said he would love to be the opponent. I know you've said that trilogy is something you could do anytime and it would make sense. Are you interested in doing business with Nate Diaz?
I love Nate. That fight's a year away. So I'm not even thinking about anything right now. The landscape will change so much by next 4th of July. Who knows what's going to happen? Who knows who's going to be on the card or what the main event will be or who will hold all the titles, and everything could be completely different. So it's not even worth thinking about it right now.
Sure. I guess just one follow-up on that, though, with Jon Jones.
I have other problems. I'm dealing with the logistics and all the things on figuring out how to make this thing happen. How do we want to do it? I'm going to fly out there in about 10 days, 2 weeks, and we'll have all the renderings done, sit down with him and go through the renderings and see what he wants to do and what he doesn't want to do.
Yeah, Jon Jones says he wants to be on there too, and he says he would fight whoever the champion is at that time. But would you be okay with him coming back and potentially winning that belt again? And you might have to go through.
Well, it's not even about him winning the belt. I mean, how I felt about him. I can't risk putting him in big positions in a big spot and have something go wrong.
Fair enough.
Yeah.
Brett, we're coming off of a 2-year soap opera that did not end in Jones Aspinall. I could fill hours worth of material of how much Jon Jones disappoints me at times. Is this the right stance from the company to be like, you just put us through yet another shitstorm, if you will? Now we're just going to reward you against Aspinall for the belt on the lawn? I mean, what are we doing here?
I would love if Dana White came out right now and said Jon Jones wants to fight at the White House in July of 2026. He can do so as the defending heavyweight champion after unifying his title against Tom Aspinall in November at Madison Square Garden. If Jon Jones fights Tom Aspinall in New York and beats him, he will headline the White House card. Just come out and say it, because if he doesn't, and Jon won't take that, I believe, but who knows? Maybe he would, and then we would all be very happy about that, right? But I agree with everything he said. If you look back at the career of Jon Jones, if you're in the mind of Dana White, first off, you remember that he wouldn't fight Chael Sonnen on short notice after Dan Henderson got injured. I actually thought that was perfectly fine. I think a lot of the sport thinks like, hey, he was the champion. He has the right to turn down a short notice challenger, but Dana White has long held on to that memory. And then you have, of course, UFC 200, where they're changing the poster during the week leading up to it. And then you have also the time where on Christmas, they moved the entire card to Los Angeles because Nevada wouldn't license him because of the picogram stuff. That was the whole picogram era. So he has been burned by this guy. And then to your point, we are coming off now a year of, I think this fight's going to happen with Tom Aspinall. I think he's going to take it, but then he doesn't. So why in the world would he commit, first of all, to a fight that's a year away, but also to this guy that has been unreliable in big events? And I say that while also giving him credit that, yes, he showed up time and time again. No one is disputing Jon Jones is great, and he defended his titles and won all these world championships. That's great. But there is a history of this. And also, you don't get to duck Tom Aspinall and then come back to fight at the last fight in the White House. Go fight him in Madison Square Garden, and then we will all line up to see you fight whoever at the White House on July 2026.
Yeah, and put some pants on that random woman in the car, right? I mean, I don't know what's going on here. Here's Jon Jones's response quickly on Twitter. I'll sum it up for you. Hearing that there would be a fight from Trump's lips about the White House lawn, I guess relit the light, the fighting spirit, particularly Jon saying, I can't wait to fight for my country. Brett, I don't know if he realizes that this ain't the Olympics here. You know what I'm saying? Okay, like you'll be fighting on your country. I don't really know if it's for your country, but I'm done talking about Jon Jones here. Let's close with this, and then you can return to being a dad here. Topic number 3 took us to South Africa as PFL Africa made its debut, and there was a bit of a star-studded main card on top of that, including Costello Van Steenis in the main event, submitting Johnny Eblen, giving him his first defeat after losing the first 3 rounds, rallying in round 5 to submit him to become the inaugural PFL middleweight champion. So shout out to Van Steenis right there. But Brett, the bigger story was in not only the co-main event as Dakota Ditcheva finally made her return after a breakout year last year, getting a wide unanimous decision over Sumiko Inaba in a strong performance, and then revealing afterwards that she signed a multi-year deal with the promotion. Considering that this hasn't always been a great PR calendar year for Don Davis's LinkedIn page and PFL in general, and that it took Ditcheva to go on Mike Bones' podcast to basically complain and beg to just get a fight when she should be the face of the company. How big is this for the company in your mind, re-signing Ditcheva like this? And will they be able to keep her busy and challenged enough to make this relationship work?
I want to see the PFL succeed, man. I know you do too. Everybody wants to see the PFL succeed. It gives fighters opportunities. It levels out the market. Everybody wants to see them succeed. But I look at this, and you mentioned the PR of 2025 Bellator champions complaining openly. Why am I not getting a fight? I want to leave, and then they don't leave for a while, but then it just drags on for a few months, and then they leave. It's just that you question: does this team, does this company have a PR strategy ever? And Ditcheva is so incredible. I am all in on Ditcheva. I was, at a bunch of her fights last year. She is the real deal. She has fought veterans now. She is tested. She's not just this flash in the pan. She is violent. She is very good, and she's very fun to watch. And you should know by now that she is the face. And to my knowledge, I still don't even think she's been a headliner. They keep putting her in the co-main event of these cards that why is she not even the main event? If it's happened, maybe it's happened once, but I can't remember. I want to say she's been the co-main event pretty much every time. And then you re-sign her. She's going to fight for the first time in 2025. Why didn't you I didn't hear about this fight. And not only did I not hear about Ditcheva re-signing, of course, because she had made that announcement in the cage, but I didn't really see much promotion or talk about this event at all. It's your first PFL Africa. Where is the promotion? You could have used this news about Ditcheva that people actually care about and used it to promote the event. You could have held a press conference. You could have taken cameras over to her and been like, Ditcheva is signing a multi-year deal with the world-leading PFL, and we're going to take it to Africa. Like, nothing, not a peep. And you and I's friend Coach is over there, and I think it's going to improve because Coach is getting more of a spotlight there. And I know that Coach that's the way his brain works. He wants to send messages. He wants to
he's good in that role.
World of WWE. So I like that move for them, and I like Coach's involvement. Dude, not enough people knew the PFL Africa 1 happened this weekend. Not enough people knew that Dakota Ditcheva was fighting, and then she has this great fight, and you're like, dang, I want to see this girl fight again. And then she announces that she's re-signed with you, but no one was watching it. Like, dude, PFL does some good things over there, but can you tell people about it? Can you promote? That was Bellator's problem as well. Bellator never promoted. They never had a PR strategy, and I get it. It's hard when the UFC is going every weekend. It's very hard, but yeah, man, I like watching Dakota Ditcheva fight, and I just feel like, we should have, more people should have been watching it, and they should have used that announcement of re-signing her for something. It should have been used for.
Dude, I'm with you. I mean, they also put the fight on the busiest combat day ever. You know what I mean? So it kind of got buried in that regard. But AJ McKee gets another win. They need to make him one of their faces and push him. And shout out to friend of the program, OT himself, Corey Anderson, moving up to heavyweight, taking a TKO 2 of Dennis Goltsov, and then calling out Vadim Nemkov for a trilogy. I see you, the beast, down at the end of the hallway and dorm room, whatever that was called right there. Brett Okamoto, it has been a pleasure chatting MMA with you in your debut on this program. I believe people can follow your work, of course, on ESPN.com. You do great work on the PFL and UFC coverage as well. Anything else that we should promote at the moment?
No, man, that's it. Yeah, I'm in the same place I've been for the last 15 years, working at ESPN, still loving it. Fortunate that I've been there. Sorry that it does look like I'm coming to you from a bomb bunker. Usually, it's like I got my ESPN camera set up, so everything's pointed this way. So now it just looks like I'm in some dark closet somewhere. My eyes are a little red because I'm still tired from the fights and the flight from New Orleans. But this has been a wonderful way to start my Monday, start my week. I'm going to walk around very positive, getting to talk with Brian Campbell. And dude, I tell you, I text you from time to time. I don't watch boxing as much as I used to, but I feel like a lot of the times when I do turn it on, I see your bright, smiling, energetic face in there. So I really am happy for you,
Appreciate
man, that you're out there as well, dude. So,
Thank you. Thank you. You've been doing some great shit in your career since we parted ways as well. And look, you talk about the bunker mentality here. Underwhelming is the theme of Morning Kombat. So that's what, that's all good. But thank you so much, Brett. We'll be in touch. Shout him out there on ESPN, Brett Okamoto. Thank you. Let's shift over there after that fantastic to tell you a little bit about our sponsors briefly. Rafe Bartholomew to come in that big box breakdown of all things Pacquiao, Usyk, Bam, and more. But nothing beats relaxing.
Oh, shit.
On a sorry. Let's we'll do it again. We'll take it from the top. Hey, nothing beats relaxing on a hot summer day and watching baseball. And the simplest way to get in on the action is to download the Pick 6 app from DraftKings. It's crazy simple. Just pick more or less on the stats for 2 or more of your favorite players. And boom, you're in the mix for big cash prizes. Works the same as when you play it for the UFC, over, under, more or less on strikes, baseball, any number of categories you can look in here. And if you nail your picks and you keep heating up, it gets hot in here because Pick 6 brings upside with payouts up to 500 times. Pick 6 from DraftKings is the most fun way to play fantasy sports. Download the DraftKings Pick 6 app right now and use our code COMBAT with a K. That's COMBAT with a K for new customers to get a special sign-up offer, better payouts, bigger wins, only with Pick 6 from DraftKings, where, of course, the crown is yours. And gambling problem, call 1-800-GAMBLER. Help is available for problem gambling. Call 888-789-7777 or visit ccpg.org in Connecticut. Must be 18 plus. Age and eligibility restrictions vary by jurisdiction. Pick 6 not available everywhere, including New York and Ontario. Void where prohibited. For additional terms and responsible gaming resources, see pick6.com. DraftKings. I'm sorry. pick6.draftkings.com/promos. Little tongue twister there, but we got it done in the end. And also, why don't I tell you about this great relationship we have with Total Wireless. Total Wireless, one of our amazing sponsors for today's podcast, also the official wireless partner of UFC. And when you're streaming the fight or sharing those takedown highlights with your best friends, you need a wireless provider that keeps you close to the action. With Total Wireless, you're covered by that Verizon 5G network, so you don't have to worry about your connection being knocked out in the biggest moments. It's not something you can say often, right? My wireless provider has got my back, but that's the thing about Total Wireless. They are in your corner every second of the day, so you never miss a thing, right? Just like Aerosmith there on the Armageddon soundtrack. Yeah. Total Wireless keeps you covered for just $25 a month with 4 lines without sacrificing the essentials like speed. And with Total, you get unlimited 5G data so you can stay ahead of the action and keep up with every KO. Total Wireless also understands you can't afford those surprise blows any more than your favorite fighters can. That's why this price is guaranteed. For 4 years, folks, taxes and fees included. The best fighters, they don't make it to the top alone. They've got that all in support, just like Total Wireless provides you. So visit TotalWireless.com or visit your local Total Wireless store to learn more about how Total Wireless can be in your corner. 5G access requires 5G capable device and a 5G service area. Monthly rate on the Total Base 5G Unlimited plan for new subscribers applies only to the monthly rate for your plan. Additional terms apply. See the website for more details. That is the first half of our show complete. The MMA put to bed. Let's get inside the box, though, with my weekly podcast partner for life, really. Yes, the New York Times best-selling author, Rafe Bartholomew, normally coming to us from Detroit, the Motor City. But for today, you are in NYC, your old stomping grounds. Good friends. I love your daddy, but your dad, Big G, turning 80 years old. Much love to the family there. Rafe, thank you and your mustache for joining us on this Monday morning.
Oh, it's an honor to get a call up to the big show. I took a shower. I put on a shirt with a collar. I'm sitting here. Also, a little bit in tribute to my dad, who just turned 80 and was a career bartender at McSorley's Old Ale House in New York. Some of y'all may have been there. Shout out. I give him so much shit about this room. This is like a shrine of his bartending career, but he deserves it. Shout out to my father. Now let's get it on.
He likes his coffee like he likes his beer and ladies, right? Too dark and then too light.
Black coffee, no sugar, no cream.
All right. Get on top. Rafe, we don't have to clean it up here too much on Morning Kombat compared to our normal Brian Campbell experience YouTubing that we do these days. But great to have you here. So much box to get into over the weekend. So let's get right into it. It all starts for me on topic number 4 here. Emmanuel Pacquiao, excuse me, the 46-year-old legend. The living legend. He was back headlining a PBC on Prime pay-per-view card that I had the privilege of calling from ringside. And in the end, Manny Pacquiao was forced to settle for a majority draw with WBC welterweight title holder Mario Barrios in this historic comeback fight as he looked to become everything from the first boxer to win titles in 4 different decades to the first Hall of Famer to come back and win a title. Oh boy, did he come very close. But in that majority decision in the end, one judge had it slightly for Barrios, the other two 114. So Rafe, man, it's a close fight when I'm getting just as many text messages of people saying Pacquiao was robbed as they were saying, man, Pacquiao and the crowd tricked everybody into thinking, that Barrios wasn't doing anything. This certainly was historic, even in a draw, just to see him come back and give that performance. But how much at the end of the day, if we're being honest, was this Manny over exceeding expectations or Barrios being underwhelming, playing to the worst stereotype of himself and maybe not being urgent or mean enough to get the job done?
Yeah, I mean, they might have needed to let him out the cage, Brian. No, I think both things can be true. You have to say that Manny overperformed compared to the expectations of a lot of experts who were genuinely afraid for his safety coming back after a 4-year layoff at age 46 with just a couple of those weird exhibition fights that he didn't train for and looked like a true shell of himself to fight to a draw that a lot of people, certainly the arena, much of the Twitter audience thought that he deserved to win. That is overperforming for what a lot of people expected from Manny Pacquiao coming into this fight. But also it unfolded that way because Mario Barrios let it happen. Up until the moment the scorecards were read, it felt like everything was unfolding almost as well as you could have possibly have hoped for Manny, because his opponent was letting him, steal rounds in the middle of the fight, build up an advantage on the scorecards, and wasn't really making him pay for some of the signs of, age, the age factor that were clear to observe in the fight. Some of the ways that Manny, when he gets, when he falls over his punches, he used to be so athletic and quick that he could just jump out anyway. He couldn't this time, but Barrios, more often than not, or certainly not often enough, wasn't making him pay. And that's what made it such a close and fun fight. And it felt like this weird magical moment was actually going to happen. And then boxing happened.
I know, but I guess the real debate for me here is, did boxing really happen? Our unofficial score on the broadcast, Larry Hazard, had it 7-5 for Pacquiao. I, joining all 3 judges and giving Barrios the final 3 rounds, had him winning 7-5. 2 of the 3 judges scored it even. You did, though, get an aggressive response in all areas. Dan Rafael led the charge on Twitter with people that scored it ultimately 9-3 for Pacquiao and believed that he got robbed. You know how I scored it. 7-5 Barrios, even though he was largely underwhelming, even though Pacquiao did land the bigger shots throughout. He's just 46. There wasn't enough of them. And in some very close rounds, it was the jab and the activity of Barrios and the few times he would use that counter straight right hand that probably could have put Manny in a lot of trouble if he sat down on it. Still, I thought he did enough. This takes nothing away from the fantastic performance from Pacquiao, But was this really a robbery in the end? How did you score it, and how do you view that reaction?
It's unusual, Brian, because I'm very familiar with your long history of completely insane scorecards. I mean, you have some real doozies on your resume. However,
wait, 115, 113, Thurman over Pacquiao. Glenn Felton
that one might be at the top of the list. Also, did you have Danny Jacobs beating Canelo or just drawing with Canelo?
It was a draw.
Okay.
Also, I had Trout beating Canelo, and I'm going to stand on that business. Okay.
The open scoring in that bout thought otherwise. But anyway, man, you're not crazy in this one. I scored it a draw, and it's not that hard for me to see how you could have gotten to 7-5 for Barrios. It's also, and if I'm scoring it a draw, and a lot of those rounds were close where Manny was trying, but I don't think that effective. Is trying to land, jump in and land either a straight left or a 2-1-2, some of those vintage Manny Pacquiao combinations. And it wasn't, they weren't quite landing. He was falling. He was off balance. It wasn't like crisp work. And then Barrios wouldn't really counter, and they'd reset, and Manny would complain about a body shot that probably wasn't a low blow, and that would kill about 15 seconds, and nothing would happen for a while. And all of a sudden it's around, and you're like, well, I don't know, maybe Manny won. There were a lot of rounds like that could have gone either way. So no, as much as I love to give you a hard time for your eccentric judging opinions, I don't blame you for this one. But I'm kind of curious, how are the netizens treating you for this one?
The netizens are just fine. I didn't get any crap, but it's weird though. I did get, like I said, I saw some, whether it's texts or emails or whatever, or DMs, I got some very aggressive reactions split from the Pacquiao was robbed to the, man, he wasn't even connecting clean, but the crowd went nuts. And in some cases that was true, because that was an old school Pacquiao crowd. So not only, look, did it mean a lot to me calling the biggest fight of my career? Did I ever think I'd be calling a Manny Pacquiao pay-per-view fight? No, I would have hoped to and loved to. I never thought I would. There was that magical feeling when he came out. There was that, like, as the round started to progress, there was that, like, how the hell is he doing this? And when does the clock turn midnight? When is he going to gas the hell out? Or when is Barrios going to listen to Bob Santos and really sit down on those right-handed shots and start fighting mean? Now, he never committed to the mean. To his credit, he did at least rally and put on more pressure. And like I said, I thought he won, but it was a close fight that could have gone either way. But Rafe, that magical feeling of Pacquiao doing something in front of your eyes, literally right in front of me with his giant-ass calves in those beautiful Keith Van Horn high socks, there was this, like, Ali, Jordan on the Wizards type of feeling of, like, this damn legend has no business doing this right now, but he can't help but being great. Like, he can't help that even this after ass market version of him is still out here doing things that are insanely impossible. I don't know what it felt like to be a fan of Muhammad Ali when he goes to Zaire and knocks out George Foreman, or survives the Thrill in Manila, or beats Leon Spinks in the comeback. But I got a little bit of those feels being ringside. And it really just reminds you how insanely unique and special and one of one Manny Pacquiao is. You're the resident Manny Pacquiao super fan. That's the guy that dipped you deep back into the hardcore of this sport. What were you feeling from that same sort of romanticized viewpoint of this aging, living legend doing this shit? He should have got destroyed, and somehow he didn't, Rafe.
I was confused. I was all mixed up inside, because on one hand, I am rooting for that narrative, right? Because it really was all lining up for him, but except not in the way that if I were writing it in a screenplay, it would happen, where he summons this, he summons a true, almost vintage, like the version of Manny Pacquiao who beat Keith Thurman. What was that, 4 or 5 years ago?
2019.
So 6 years ago. Good.
7.
Good God.
Or 6. Yeah, 6.
No, yeah, I can count. All right.
I can, but I'm a community college graduate. Keep going. Yeah.
It wasn't happening in that way where he was really taking over the fight, looked truly impressive. It was on, and I'm curious sort of what you observed at ringside of this, Brian. How do you explain how Mario Barrios approached that fight? And why he couldn't pull the trigger a little bit more and maybe try to walk Manny down a little? I think Manny looked like he was uncomfortable under pressure and not as dangerous with his counterattacks as he used to be. Like he was, once his momentum was going backward, it was harder for him to change directions. I think that a fighter who would be willing to put more pressure on him and make him defend more might, even though that means taking on danger, and Manny must still have enough pop in that left hand and some of those surprising little right hooks that he'll throw around the guard to keep people honest. But so I'm rooting for this narrative. I'm like, man, he might, it looks like this is going to happen all the way up into when the scorecards are read, but it wasn't, because I couldn't quite, I still have to believe what I'm seeing with my own two eyes, which is that, okay, a lot of the story here is Mario Barrios, for one reason or another, underperforming pretty severely. And I don't like, this doesn't look like, so it doesn't look like a top welterweight champion. This looks like a guy who's going to maybe, snag a belt off of the weakest champion in the division, which is kind of what it was.
Yeah, I think the best way to answer that question is how you answered my original one. It is a little bit of both. And here's how I'll say it. Look, rounds 3 and 4 were what I thought were the best for Barrios. Those were the 2 rounds that he was sitting down on that counter right hand. He was timing Pacquiao's darting in and out. And Pacquiao was, there was a few times he'd get hit with that straight right, and he'd not only shake it off, you can see the grimace. He'd get hit with a body shot, you could see the grimace. You could see how laboring he was in little split seconds, and then he'd pull it back together and be Manny. That's the way that fight should have went in all reality. Now, look, overarching, is Barrios a beatable champion, which means he's good but flawed? Yes, and we all knew that coming in. He's been prone to hot and cold performances. The takedown he had 2 years ago against Yordenis Ugas, where he just dominated him over 12 rounds and sent him into retirement, we don't always see that guy. Now, he did have the right excuses for why his draw against journeyman Abel Ramos on the Jake Paul, Mike Tyson undercard turned so badly. He was ill throughout the training camp, like really badly, and then he basically had to use the rest of the training camp to make weight. He got rocked in the second half. He didn't have the gas, and he was barely able to hang on. That, of course, was the fight that Manny now reveals Jinky was watching and said, Manny, I think you can beat this guy, but only this guy. So as the foundation, that's all true. But the reason why he didn't return to who he was in rounds 3 and 4 was because Pacquiao started to time in that leaping lead left hand on him, and it was becoming a problem. And that lead left hand turned into a counter left hand that not only took away the jab of Barrios for essentially that entire middle portion of the bout, allowing Pacquiao to surge to get upwards of 4 consecutive rounds in a row on most people's scorecards. And a couple of those rounds, by the way, he did do the Ray Leonard versus Hagler thing of smartly flurrying in the final 30 seconds. But he disciplined Mario Barrios 1,000,000%. You heard that in the post-fight interview where Barrios was like, he was so much more tricky and awkward than I expected. He was faster than I expected. That's what Chris Algieri told us on this show, that explosive first step, which is diminished at 46, but still there, he's just in your space before you even realize he is, and he's throwing from awkward angles. The fact that it was a 46-year-old who I think in rounds 3 and 4 got slightly beat up enough where he's like, okay, I got to fight my way out of this. Dude, he disciplined the younger, more inexperienced fighter, only he's not that inexperienced compared to Manny, but we have seen him lose twice on the pay-per-view level to Tank and Thurman, and all the talk about him making the right adjustments so those type of fights never happen again. Dude, this is yet the second fight in a row he's lucky to walk away with this title. I couldn't score it for Manny based on just the math of 10-9 each round, but in the story of the fight, in the mythical Max Kellerman way of looking at it, dude, Pac won every inch of this story, and he did it by disciplining him. I mean, did you see that same thing where he made Barrios really, really have to question and think about whether he's willing to take the chance of getting knocked down or knocked out on one of those rocket left hands that somehow still had some fuel in it?
No, you're right. It is, and that is to quote Brian Campbell when he said a few minutes ago that Manny is, and I believe also said on the broadcast, nice work, called Manny a one-of-one athlete, a one-of-one fighter, not just generational, but and a true all-timer, that the kind of, boxer we're probably not going to see again as long as we live. And that even a version of him that to the naked eye looks so much slower and less explosive and compared to the version of him that was beating Keith Thurman even 6 years ago, let alone the insane buzzsaw he was in that early junior welterweight run through Oscar De La Hoya, then down to Ricky Hatton, then Miguel Cotto, Claudio Margarito, all of those wins. I mean, forget it. But that he could look like maybe only 50% of that or less than 50% of that and still be so quick, so fast, and so awkward that a fighter 16 years his junior couldn't pick up or was cautious enough about getting picked off by that left hand that it swung the fight in the middle rounds and made most of the people watching think that this is close. I don't know if Manny is winning clearly, but I'm gonna assume, since it's Manny Pacquiao and this narrative belongs to him, that the judges are gonna find a way to see him winning the majority of these rounds and walking away with a decision. I said before the fight that if Manny wins 4 rounds, they'll figure out a way to give him the fight. He did much better than that and came out with a draw. So boxing, the theater of the unexpected. Shout out to Larry Merchant and all of those great old maxims about the sport. I have one question for you, Brian, about Mario Barrios. What compromat, what leverage does he have on the boxing world? That, I mean, these 2 very controversial draws in a row. His first huge step up fight way back in the day against Batir Akhmedov.
Yeah, it was a
lot of people. I mean, he did a great fight. He dropped Akhmedov at the end. And made it and at least made a case for winning, but a lot of people still scored that for the opponent. He has had some serious luck in his personal life and his love life, we could say. But all of that.
Talking about. Oh, sorry.
We just, if you know, he's sort of touched by something here. What does he have? Does he have an island? Is he flying judges down to an island and getting things to blackmail on them? What's going on with him?
I don't think so. I don't think he's going to show up on the Epstein files either, if that's where you're going with that. But I think ultimately it was maybe happenstance in both situations, because for everybody saying, oh, he got the PBC railroad job, they paid for these scorecards, they wanted to use Manny to build up the fight, but have their champion win. It's like, are you following boxing in 2025? You think this promotion would rather have Manny as the champion right now or Barrios? But at the end of the day, like, I don't know. Barrios is who he is, man. It has to be frustrating maybe for Bob Santos in the corner. He said the right things. Barrios did enough to save it. But now we're in this, tie feels like kissing your sister type of thing where nobody really knows how to move forward. We didn't get the historic breakthrough feel-good moment, and now we're like, what do we do? Do we do it again? It kind of goes without saying that we are in a very down era at welterweight, a historic star pay-per-view division, that this would be possible. That's true. Barrios was the perfect champion as much as John Ruiz was for Roy Jones, for example, in a different sort of scenario. But now what do we do? Manny saying afterwards that, like, yeah, I think I can fight again. They both kind of said they'd be interested for a rematch. I don't know if the public would be. You'd assume that with another year of, Manny turning 47 in December, that maybe Barrios would listen to the criticism, watch the tape, and be a lot better next time. Or should you try to F around and do a Floyd rematch, do a fight against Rolly Romero for a welterweight title? How does this blah result to a fight that was fun to watch? I loved calling it, but we didn't get a result that was climactic, that was cement, that was solid. Where do we go with Pacquiao moving forward?
If I am Sean Gibbons, the manager of Manny Pacquiao, shout out to Knucklehead Sean.
Yeah, the promoter there at MP.
And everybody at PBC trying to plan out the Manny, what's next for Manny. I would probably just act like you won. Just pretend like, whoa, take the draw, move on, and try to make something bigger. Because while it would be, they could sell they could sell a Barrios rematch, but if those rumors about a Floyd rematch are true, why not just plow straight ahead into that? Because it's 2025, Brian. Boxers make a lot of fights that don't make sense, in any other world except the strange, twisted funhouse mirror universe of boxing. And certainly there could be, it's not hard to imagine a world in which there's so much money on the table, so much pay-per-view money out there for a Manny and Floyd rematch. With Manny, Manny, like you said, the story of the fight, just carry that and try and parlay it into the big payday, which is, I'd get excited for it. I wouldn't expect it to be a great fight, but I would still get excited for it. And there are other options if Floyd is not coming out of retirement.
Is Rolly safe? Is that a safe fight, or is that a really bad idea? What do you think?
I think it makes sense. That makes perfect sense. There are opponents at welterweight who have name value, who are affiliated, who fight for PBC, and who are beatable, or it's not hard to imagine this version of Manny that we saw after having what they said was a great training camp in LA, really dedicated, sort of, everything went right.
No drama, I heard. No drama at all, because Jinky was in control. They said people were scared of her. That's what I heard. All right.
No more cockfighting, no more womanizing, no more billiards, maybe a little bit of billiards. But you gotta have some room for billiards. But I think that Rolly makes sense. And especially you think of what are the things that Barrios did that allowed Manny to have some success that in this fight. He fought at a slow pace. He allowed Manny to be first and sort of pick and choose his spots on when he wanted to jump in and launch his attacks. And you see Rolly doing that as well. He's sort of a one-shot puncher artist. And I guess there were earlier versions of Rolly's career where he charged forward, but I think that it's hard. The version of him that beat Ryan Garcia in April was, fighting at a very slow, deliberate pace, trying to slow down Ryan, of course, and take advantage of some of Ryan's inexperience. But I think that it's just it's the matchup where it's not hard to see Manny doing really well against a fighter like that. And Rolly, again, having trouble like Barrios did, dealing with the speed, with the angles, with all of the experience and craftsman, tricks of the trade that Manny's going to bring into the ring if they meet. So yeah. And there's a weird interim belt on the line. So all that lines up and makes sense. It's good business.
All right. There's one other Hail Mary. Nobody's talking about it. I'm just throwing it out there to see if you can catch it. Tank versus Pacquiao.
Are we going to do that from Rahway State Prison? Is Jersey back in the business for that? No, shoot. Look, that's a more dangerous fight. Obviously, like Tank is. I think Tank. I would expect Tank to, even though he's smaller, he fights. He usually fights at 135 pounds. He's been up as high as 140. But I just wouldn't expect him to. I guess. Tank versus Manny, that's a fight where I think Manny starts to really get picked apart. You see his age. Unless Tank does run hot and cold. If you catch Tank on a night where he's not feeling it, then maybe, the narrative just goes wild from there. And Floyd will have to come back to avenge the loss of his former protege in that case.
Yeah, that would be weird. There'd be some weirdness going on there. I don't know. I don't think I want Pacquiao Barrios again. I don't think, I don't know. I don't know, dude. Let's see that Twitter meme there about the judges. People really didn't like these scores, but it is what it is. But yeah, Scott Foster, Stevie Wonder, and Dwayne Wade were judging the fight right there. We almost had a huge, memorable, feel-good moment. But I don't feel like we were robbed of it. I feel like that's boxing. Let's not act like this fight was fought at an incredibly high pace or some technical thriller. It wasn't. It was an attraction fight. There was a great storyline, and we got a plus performance, like an above expectations for a true legend. but that's not the way fights are scored. So we can't act like that. And then you can't also score fights on the curve of the age and the overachievement. You can't do that either. So it is what it is. But I did enjoy this card top to bottom right there. And there is something to talk about in that co-main event as Sebastian Fundora stopped giving away his height for most of this in the rematch with Tim Tszyu. And he brutalized him, dropping Tszyu in round 1, putting it on him through a back and forth all action round 7 as Tszyu was starting to rally and had twice bloodied the nose of Fundora. But just as Tszyu walked back to the corner, it shocked me, bro, at ringside. It shocked everybody. He asked out of the fight. He was out on his feet, and he really looked hurt for most of this fight and was fighting on instinct. The larger story, of course, is Sebastian Fundora is evolving into a real big problem. The Tszyu story is going to get a lot more tweets and clicks. But Rafe, let's talk about the winner first and foremost. He was a praying mantis, fun action fighter, joke of a guy in some cases until he wasn't. And now he's putting real craft and thought into it. I know there's the element of Tim Tszyu having taken beatings lately, but were you as impressed with Fundora as I was that if he keeps going down this road, he might be like the true class of this division? It might be a problem for every single person.
You have to say that's a possibility here. If you can't have watched that fight and that performance, especially the rounds, that first round and the first 3 rounds really, where Fundora was in almost complete control, and then even when the fight warmed up and Tszyu, Tim Tszyu, he got beat up real bad, but had some real brave moments and landed some Sunday punches in the middle rounds, including that 7th round where they were exchanging just wild exchanges, like Emmanuel Stewart. Oh my God, look at this!
Look at this
exchanges. Yeah, it was so but that version of Fundora early on where he's using his jab way more active with it and has almost perfect distance with it, and then was timing the exact right moments to come both over the top with that with his left, with Fundora with his left, or to sort of like bolo it, because he is so tall, of course, 6'6", 6'7" at 154 pounds. When he throws sort of like that bolo-ish half uppercut, and it basically arrives at eye level for his opponent. So he can throw it from almost a safe distance and not get countered because of his height.
He's cutting off the ring now, so there's like nowhere to hide against him.
The one caveat there, before we start crowning this guy, really calling him, maybe he is the class of the division. First, let's remember this right now is a white hot division. Boots Ennis just came up. Boachuk is fighting. Virgil Ortiz is fighting the best he's fought in his entire career. Madrimov is still out there.
Bud has a belt still. Zayas is coming on.
Zayas, got to watch out for Zayas, Brian. And so I would say I want to see.
What was that? I don't get what that was.
Because I'm just not a believer yet in my man Xander. We'll see. We'll see how he does with his vacant title fight coming up. So there's a lot of really excellent competition in this division. So calling him the cream of this division means that that you're essentially saying he might end up being better than Virgil Ortiz and Boots Ennis, which
you got to earn that.
That's a far cry. And I would like to see it against someone who, as brave as Tim Tszyu is, I think that he seemed like he learned all the wrong lessons from his just outstanding hot start to his career, where he was able to sort of stand flat-footed and counter lesser opponents and hit and look like he was this sort of master in the pocket. When once he stepped up in class, it turned out that actually he's got bad instincts when he's hurt. It's fun instincts. He just tries to fight his way out of it, but he doesn't move out of the way of the punches that are hurting him. He just tries to fight his way out of it, and it's not working. I think so. I'd like to see it against an opponent who doesn't just stand there and and allow Fundora to really look as dynamic and incredible as he looked. But look, you got to give him credit. This is the opponent he had, and he had fought that opponent before and didn't look nearly as good.
No.
And
he got cracked a bunch.
Exactly. And
nosebleed and shook it off. I mean, I have so much respect for the gas tank, for the improved punching power, for obviously the warrior spirit that Fundora has always showed. But I think we're starting to see him get a little bit of a chip on his shoulder for the first time. Normally such a fun-loving, humble guy. And by the way, he's going to Harvard. I mean, there's a lot going on good in his life. But his dad taught him how to sit down and on his shots and bring some power. And he's looking really good. I did forget that Boots Ennis moved up. He has the potential to take over this division. You're going to have to go through Virgil Ortiz to truly be called the class of this division. But this felt like a breakthrough. He didn't just fall into this, even though he fell into the title opportunity. Remember, he was coming off of being KO'd by Brian Mendoza when he was offered the last-minute chance at Tszyu the first time a year ago. So, wow. But let's talk about Tim Tszyu. I know it's harsh to quote the great Prince Nassim Hamed. Should he finish? And I don't really mean that. I'm playing that up because it's an old sound drop on our podcast. I guess what I'm saying is this. I actually thought he was mentally and physically ready for this and truly was. And this is a bad style matchup. And he caught a really bad version. And now you're adding another beating to this recent run. 3 losses in the last 4 fights. I'm not saying he needs to retire or he will. But I do believe that needs to be on the table in the conversation. Some people are using this as a way to say, see, he was never that good, which is also incorrect. He was very good. He looked like he was on his way to becoming the man in the division before he wasn't. What could or should Tim Tszyu do after this in your eyes?
Brian, was he that good? He looked like, I thought he was going to be good, but when he got to the point of fighting the other elite championship level fighters, not once did it really work out well. And if you're going to say that, he was very, very good, he was on the way, then you're sort of buying into the idea that fighting through that cut in the first Fundora fight somehow derailed the whole thing, which, I mean, it's a crazy sport. Weird things can happen like that. It's not implausible, but it's also possible that maybe he just wasn't that guy. We saw what we wanted to see against opponents who let Tim Tszyu look good, and then better opponents came in and he wasn't good against them anymore. Anyway, as you're asking, what should he do next? You know, he doesn't need to retire, but no one is going to buy him as a credible championship threat, a real championship contender at 154 pounds right now. He needs to build himself back up. And luckily for him, the thriving fight culture in Australia, he can go back down under, and you know what's waiting for him there. A fight that a certain male dancer probably believes Tim Tszyu ducked back in the day.
Are you talking about Michael Zarafa?
Yeah, it's time. The Thunder Down Under should happen.
The stripper.
All right. Yeah, the stripper, Michael Zarafa, who is the test maker down there in Australia. You shouldn't get off that continent without first beating that stripper. If you can't get, because Zarafa, he will expose you. He's exposed our boy Isaac Hardman, who was up and coming.
But Lara sent him to hell.
No, look, Zarafa don't belong over here either. But I'm saying,
I mean, Peter Quillen killed him once, straight up, right?
That was his U.S. debut, and he kept coming back over to get sent back to hell. However, that's a good fight down. That is the sort of Tim Tszyu. Go home, get back in the lab. We're going back to the drawing board, as Daniel Dubois likes to say. And
if you say the words Glenn Rushton, I'm coming over there.
No,
okay,
no.
I mean, come on.
It hadn't occurred to me yet, but if you get Glenn Rushton, Jeff Horn, his wife Joe Horn,
the rhythm pressure method,
some tough Aussie gang members, all right, and teach this man a few things. Put some new tricks in that bag. Teach him how to move. Get some, work on his game a little bit. Let him fight a couple of easy, a couple more Joey Spencers, but you don't have to fly him in. They could be local Joey Spencers down there, and then make a big local domestic fight with Michael Zarafa, who's always ready. He's always ready.
There's domestic comeback plans for sure if he wants to still keep going. Damn. I mean, I don't mean to always make excuses, and I'm not going to say he was on his way to being unbeaten from the beginning. He's there's flawed elements to his game that have gotten exposed. I just think that there's certainly elements of excuses in the first Fundora loss, plus the sort of, moral victory of how he behaved and performed, even though that took a certain, that took a percentage of him. And then to go in there against Murtazaliev, a killer, a guy we didn't even mention sort of the names that Fundora should be going through and maybe will be, or have to prove himself against. That guy is no joke. But I don't think the one-sided walkthrough of Murtazaliev versus Tszyu, I'm not going to say like it didn't happen. I saw it. I called the fight. I think Tszyu's dad being there just effed him up and how they're on and off relationship. And it was the wrong fight, the wrong night, the wrong everything. And he was just not there. And he lost and got the shit kicked out of him. Now you're adding another beatdown. I get that. I just don't know if he should keep going, because inevitably when you get to the top, he's going to be in some banger fights, and he could. I don't know. I'm really torn, dude. I'm emotionally torn. You get attached to these stories when you watch these guys, and he does have that Terminator side of him who never wants to come out of a fight. To see him actually say enough was enough was shocking, even though he had more than enough right to. If he did walk away, no one would say anything negative, except for maybe HE, right?
Well, HE seems to be a little hurt about what was the backstory to.
Well, let's set it up.
Yeah,
I'll set it up for you. So around the time that we heard the first two dissenters to the HE reaching out to you and offering you money, and he'll put you against who he wants. It was Canelo at first, who was very aggressive, and Tank, who was very aggressive. The third in that, and it just so happened at the time that all three were close to the PBC label, was Tszyu. But Tszyu didn't do it in a disrespectful way. He was like, no, I already have a fight. Let me get that first. And then I believe he was offered money ahead of the Murtazaliev fight to go fight. 'Cause remember, he had to pull out of the LA Riyadh season card against Virgil Ortiz Jr. because his cut wasn't fully healed from the Fundora fight. So it wasn't time yet for him. And then he turned down an offer from Turkey to instead fight Bakram for the title, because I think he wanted to get right back in there. Even Tim Tszyu said in the lead up to this fight, I got no problem with Turkey. I'd be more than happy to work with him. But after he got KO'd here, dude, or after he asked out of it, Turkey gave a very Dana White-like response. So here's the deleted tweet that got a lot of people, I think, rightfully angry, of Turkey putting out a picture of Tszyu getting knocked down and saying, I said to you from the beginning, Tim Tszyu does not deserve to be on Riyadh season or Ring Magazine's cards. He can be useful as a sparring partner for his fighter. He went on to say more, and that it's cut off right there. Rafe, a lot of people are getting after me on Twitter when I tweeted, this is bullshit. Like this, we don't need this type of talk in boxing. People are like, well, what about Oscar De La Hoya? He just did a victory lap on Berlanga's KO. There is a difference here. There is a major difference, in my opinion, in terms of the control Turkey has and just the respect you would want to show for fighters. Also, Oscar's a mess. Also, that is fighter versus fighter kind of, going after it. I don't know. Am I crazy here? When I saw this, I was like, man, no, that's not the right tone. Tszyu didn't try to clown on him. Tszyu didn't do anything but go in there and fight like a warrior until he couldn't anymore. I thought that was a Bush League response. How did you react to it?
It's clearly in poor taste, Brian. Turkey, look, we know this about Turkey. He doesn't have a very sophisticated view of boxing. He's fairly new to the sport, but thanks to his enormous piggy bank, he is still able to make himself the most, the most important and powerful person in the sport. And for the most part, that's been pretty good for boxing. It's created a lot of good fights that have not happened otherwise. And he's making, Riyadh season and ring, whatever we're calling them, fights are filling up the schedule in a way that few other promoters are. So that side of it is fine with me. But it still remains that when Turkey actually starts to speak about the sport or express his views, whether it's the whole, I don't want Tom and Jerry fights, even though the analogy doesn't make any sense at all, where he doesn't want fighters running, he meant, I want blood. Like, that's not what the sport is all about. When it happens that way, we can love and appreciate it, but that's not all that boxing is. Skills also pay the bills, right? Shout out to Floyd. And and the more he talks about boxing, the more he sort of convinces me that he's not a very smart observer of boxing. Maybe he'll become one. Maybe he'll develop a true love for the sport. I also don't care really what he says. I get like, it's whack. Did I already know that Turki Usyk is whack in my opinion? Yes, I knew that.
Oh, I hear you. I hear you. But that was the response of everybody. But what about this? What about Tank being arrested? What about this? It's like those things aren't related. And we've talked about that. We are talking about a power player, a promoter who's, a promoter-ish, advisor-ish, whatever you want to call him, who is like the one going around the promoters and managers and having the one-on-one relationship. So that it just felt like throwing dirt on the grave unnecessarily, but maybe you're right. Of the recent recent beef retaliations from that side of the pond have been very interesting. They got receipts over there. It's wild. It's getting wild. It's getting wild in Versace land lately over there. I mean, it's a circus, but
I mean, this is the same guy who hires his journalist to come act like weird wrestling henchmen around him all the time and just be part of his traveling circus. And look, I mean, I think that they might have been more suited to those roles than their previous jobs, but it's it's like, oh, this guy who doesn't seem to really, have a ton of class in the old man yells at cloud sportsmanship sense of the word, has a classless tweet about a fighter who didn't fight on his card for one reason or another, like made a decision not to work with Turki. Turki, tries to kick him while he's down. Yeah, I could see a guy, at least the person who I imagine Turki Usyk is, I could see him doing that. He's a person who, as reported in The Athletic and the New York Times, has a wing of a prison nicknamed after him because he's got such a thin skin. He likes to put his critics in there.
I hear you on all of that.
More like jerky, right, man?
Yeah. Tough loss there for Zoo. We'll see where he goes from here. And the only quick mention I wanted to add, turn back the clock night. It wasn't just Pacquiao. 37-year-old Gary Russell Jr. came back, absolutely dominated a limited opponent who was very game in Hugo Castaneda. But afterwards, in his new division of lightweight, and don't forget that through all of his inactivity, which with like one fight in the last 7 years or 5-6 years, whatever the streak was, and of course his father dying and him taking over the training and him taking over his other late brother's children were a big part of him being out. He had a lot of beefs during that stretch with big name fighters at 140, 147. So maybe it's not a surprise that he's talking game afterwards, but Mr. Gary Russell's talking some game. First, let's hear him talk about Keith Thurman? No, who's he talking about there?
Lamont Roach.
Lamont Roach. Let's hear him talk about Lamont Roach.
At this point now, I want the Cucaracha. I want the Cucaracha, man. I want Lamont Roach. I want Lamont Roach.
I thought you said you wanted to do the Cucaracha.
No, the Cucaracha.
Why you want? Oh, the Cucaracha. Got it.
And he didn't stop there for big lightweight names. Also, this guy wants Shakur. Let's hear it.
In that division, who do you think is the toughest fight for you compared to what you showed tonight at 135?
I mean, I worked with Shakur before. We worked before a few years back. I think he's a good fighter, but like I say, I'm willing to put this shit on the line against anybody in the 135-pound division.
Dude, this is interesting because he's 37, 38, whichever one it was. I think 37.
Yeah.
But he was not taking punishment. He does have that arm injury from his last fight before this, the loss to Mark Magsayo, which he thought he won with one arm. He said his shoulder will never be the same. But he looked like a 28-year-old prime throwing fast and hard combinations. Do we say, let's wait and see if he still got it against a more live body? Or do you think he could step in there against these young champions and maybe give him a problem?
Yeah, why not? What I saw wasn't that looked enough like the Gary Russell I knew and loved back in the day. The combinations, the hand speed. It does seem like he has the legs of a late 30-year-old athlete now. He was not moving around the ring, but maybe it's because he didn't need to, or who knows. But it did sort of seem like he was really relying on his hand speed and combination punching, which still appeared to be as good as anything you can see in the sport of boxing. And he's not that old, so it makes sense. And even though he's had health issues issues, right? He threw out his shoulder, and that caused, I believe it caused him to lose the Pacquiao fight. And his only other loss is against Lomachenko at the beginning of his career, or in their first title fight against each other. More than 10 years ago. That he never took a lot of damage in his career. Unfortunately, he did have hand injuries that kept him out, and appeared to not be super eager to stay active as a champion, which is lamentable. What are you going to do? It's too late now. But maybe he recognizes that now and realizes, hey, I'm still 30. I'm 37. I still got it enough to compete at the highest level. I know I'm not quite as good as I was 5 years ago, but I'm ready. I want it more. I want to be active. And he's got enough to give. Yes, Lamont Roach, for sure. I think that would be, I'd love to see that fight. Would I favor Shakur Stevenson over him at this point? Yes, I would. But do I still think that he would catch Shakur Stevenson with punches we've never seen Shakur Stevenson come close to getting caught with? I do. And I would love to see that. So yeah, if they want to throw him straight into the fire, I would love to see that. Mark Pacquiao also fought on this undercard. Did he win?
He did win. Yes.
Okay, so that means that a rematch is viable. Like if those bigger fights are booked, Lamont Roach says, look, I'm waiting until Tank gets out of jail. I want that payday. I want my get back. And there's nothing you can do to talk me out of it. If Shakur has business with Floyd Schofield and someone else after that, if they can't make those kind of fights immediately, the Pacquiao fight is right there. It makes sense because that's a loss that he probably thinks he can and wants to avenge.
Yeah, it's going to be fun to see. I didn't have this on my bingo card, but enjoyed it. All right, let's get into topic number 5. We could have just as well led the entire show with this, as it's among some of the most amazing headlines that came out of this loaded combat weekend. But how about heavyweight champion, undisputed for the second time, Ukrainian hero, Oleksandr Usyk, adding yet another giant gold diamond piece with flair to his incredible, already historic legacy, and maybe really getting his flowers in an abundant way for the first time in a deserved way. It went down Saturday in Wembley Stadium in front of 90K, more than 90,000, not quite 80K, Carl Froch. But Rafe, to paraphrase the great Angel Garcia, you've been giving Usyk his flowers from the beginning. This violent 5th round knockout of Daniel Dubois in their rematch to become undisputed at heavyweight for the second time, undisputed overall for the third time. This was the performance, it seemed, and rightfully so, that woke up the people that had yet to really realize not just that we have an all-timer here, but that we might have a top 10 heavyweight all-time, that we might have a guy who is carving out, like Manny, his own sort of description. The craziest part about this to me was you said on our Inside the Box podcast last week coming in that at 38, Usyk might be at the peak of his powers. This might be his prime. And I remember thinking, like, it's cute to say that because of how great he's been fighting and he's coming off of 2 wins over Tyson Fury. But man, that can't really be true in reality. And then I watched how he performed on Saturday, knowing he had a more dangerous version of Dubois and how he brought the fight to him and got him the hell out of there. I think you're right. I think we're watching the very best version of one of the true living legends in the history of this sport. How much do you think Saturday's performance, based on the reaction we're really starting to hear, might cement this idea that we truly are watching a one of one in the history of the sport?
Well, I mean, Usyk is 38, and I'm not going to argue with anyone who wants to go back and watch that run through cruiserweight, watch that World Championship Super 6, whatever they called that, World Boxing Super Series tournament from 2018, where Usyk ran through Marco Hook and that masterclass performance in the championship against Murat Gassiev, and even the hardest fight of his career, really, or the closest one against Mairis Briedis in the middle of that. All of those. I mean, the version you saw of Usyk there, in a lot of ways, probably looks fresher and more dynamic even than the one we've seen, we saw on Saturday or recently against Tyson Fury. But what I do think is that heavyweight, in the second Fury fight, I felt like Usyk looked as if he had finally grown into a full-fledged, strong heavyweight, fully comfortable at the division, and fighting toe-to-toe, or able to fight toe-to-toe with any of the biggest opponents in the world, in a way where he was still growing, even though his weight has been really incredibly stable throughout this heavyweight run. But his body started to look really solid, and he was holding his ground, and his neck and sort of trap muscles, he had like a true heavyweight physique, modern heavyweight physique. And he fought like it. And we saw even more of that on Saturday. So yeah, I think we're seeing the best heavyweight version of Usyk we've seen so far. And there is no reason, he has not shown us any signs of slowing down. Inside, I bet he knows what little things are a little bit different from, that he can't do quite as quick as he used to do, but he's so smart. There's so many dimensions to what he can do, ways he can trouble and confuse and beat and then hurt opponents that we might not know that he has gone downhill for a long time, because he's good enough to just keep beating people as he progresses into his late. He's already in his late 30s, goes through his late 30s, maybe into his 40s. He looks incredible at this weight, and he made Daniel Dubois he outclassed him, man. It was incredible.
It was insane. It really was, because I knew he had the power to potentially make this not as difficult as we thought, because of the success he had against Dubois in the first fight. But even the idea that he disciplined both Fury and Joshua with those straight left hands, to where they couldn't just try to walk him down like he was some small opponent, because even though he's the smallest of the class in this super heavyweight era, man, dude, his way to know when it's time to sit down on the power, have the accuracy, speed, and power to really give you trouble if you're going to try to threaten him or play games with him. He is getting better. He is getting better fight by fight. He has to be able to, because when he turned pro, when he moved up to heavyweight, and let's not remember, for people if you didn't watch, like, he's generally considered either the greatest cruiserweight of all time or number 2 behind Evander Holyfield. So we're watching a guy that came out of winning a gold medal in the Olympics and beat every unbeaten champion one after another in that great tournament you referenced. But yet when he moved up to heavyweight, it was like, damn, they're big. Wilder was still viable. Joshua and Fury are so much, wider and bigger and stronger. He was like a boutique, cute offering in the division of, he is skilled and daring and brave enough. Maybe he'll pick up a title. It is possible. Rafe, even though you've been a day one guy, and if I wanted to, I could show a picture of you standing on top of a mountain in an Usyk hoodie, giving yourself the Rob Van Dam there. You have to be blown away surprised, because I know the guy I podcasted with during the cruiserweight Usyk era. You can't tell me you expected him to defeat the names he did through 8 heavyweight fights and for it to look this way. And it didn't always look this way. That Chisora fight was close. The Witherspoon last-minute debut, he looked okay. But look at who he is now, knowing that there's no reason to let Dubois linger. He's going to have to go after him to get him out of there. And he walked through a guy that just knocked Anthony Joshua the fuck out. Holy shit, you didn't see that coming, dude. You did not. You can't say
no,
that.
No. I'm happy. I mean, it's to see an athlete attempt something so honestly crazy. It seemed crazy, far-fetched. And this was a fighter who I thought was, the top 3 in the sport, and still, and that's has never budged from that position, right? If anything, he's only growing in everyone's estimation. But still, at heavyweight, with how well Tyson Fury was fighting at the time, how just physical and powerful and explosive Anthony Joshua can be when he's on. Deontay Wilder, it still was a question. Well, what if Wilder catches it with a right? Like that would end it. And to see him, and I figured that he can go up, and I would consider him immediately the pound for pound best heavyweight, but he's given up 60 pounds to half of these guys, or to some of the best of these guys. And eventually that weight somehow, or that size is going to seem like eventually it was going to be too much to overcome. So yeah, when he first fought Anthony Joshua, I was like, yeah, I think he can do it. I can see how he will try. He might try to do it, but do I know for sure that he can pull it off? No, I don't know. And then he did, and he did it again. And of course, then at Fury again, I thought, man, it's so much to bite off. Tyson Fury is such a born winner in a way that Usyk, I believe also was, but that's the thing. He was meeting a great fighter like himself, who was just gigantic compared to him. And has, you know, a gigantic bag of tricks and different ways to fight and win fights, you know, pretty, ugly, showboating, all, you know, can do it all himself in his own way. And I was like, man, I want to see him do it again. I believe that he is talented and disciplined and has the attributes to pull this off. But would I bet on it? No, I would have made Tyson Fury the favorite in that first fight. And again, he
almost knocked him out. He almost knocked Tyson Fury out.
No, that's the thing. Fight. He's this guy. Usyk is this fighter who I thought was already incredible. Then went and said, I'm going to do all the things that even my biggest fans think probably might be just too ambitious for even me to do, and then pulls it all off twice. And the Dubois, I mean, the thing is, especially at heavyweight, he's beating opponents. He hurts them first with his legs and his brain and his feints, and the going all the way back to the Tony Bellew fight, which was at cruiserweight, but the one that you called, Brian, where he tires out the opponent with movement, circling, constantly making these big men adjust and think and react to his jab and to everything in the ring, to the point where they tire out before he does, and then his punches, which might not have hurt them in the first round, can hurt them, can knock them out, can knock them down, can swing a fight. And it's just, I mean,
it's awesome.
We're lucky to watch it. And yes, he does. I mean, I think is at this point, he's clearly cementing himself as the best heavyweight of the 21st century. Definitely. He's, you know, and
of this Renaissance era. And people are like, well, this era sucks. Well, first of all, it doesn't. I've made arguments in print that it actually could be the third best era of all time. But even if it's not, like, he is beating Hall of Famers. When you talk about 2 wins over Fury, 2 wins over Joshua, and the idea of beating some of those like top shelf cruiserweights at the time that he did. Dude, he's done this in 24 fights. I don't think another pro has had, you know, considering the eras that we compare these guys to, you know, they had 100, 150, 200 fights, but in 24 fights, this guy went from being the first 4-belt undisputed cruiserweight champion, beating every single champion one after another, and now beating this run at heavyweight and twice becoming the undisputed champion and first time the 4-belt undisputed. This is insane. Let's see that Twitter meme there with all the faces on it, Long Island Luke, of the recent run there. I'm sorry, these are the last 11 fights. So the last fight at cruiserweight there was Bellew, or the last 2 fights was Bellew and Myris Brightus. So this is the end of the World Boxing Super Series leading into his heavyweight run. Look at this. So you're looking at his last 10 fights, 11 if you count the second Dubois. That's insane. That's absolutely insane, dude. And even that was a great version of Chisora, who really pushed him.
That was a throwback, you know, like Chisora doing his best wild man act that he could, and just smothering him with so much like disgusting, ugly pressure. But it's hard to deal with, especially for a fighter like Usyk. But the thing, Brian, with that graphic, the other crazy thing about that graphic is there's not enough room on the screen in that tweet. But it should have gone on a little bit longer. His 2 fights before that, he beat Marco Huck, who you know, was a dangerous heavyweight and a longtime cruiserweight, you know, titleist and and contender, and also Glowacki, the Polish champion.
Michael Hunter.
And Michael Hunter, yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, like those are the 3 fights before then. It's outrageous. Like you could, and even then, shout out to my boy Tabisu Mchunu of South Africa, who in his moment could give our boy Eddie Chambers a rough night on NBC Sports.
Yeah, and while everyone can say cruiserweight sucks, it always sucks. That was the deepest it ever was. Seriously, for like world-class guys. And think about it, how hard it is to be a heavyweight in the top 5 of a pound for pound at any time. The list, the pound for pound was created to put people on an even basis with heavyweights that they'd never be able to defeat in reality. In an era in which you have so much competition on top of it, that Terrence Crawford, Naoya Inoue, Jesse Bam Rodriguez, who we'll talk about in a second, like Canelo, all these people have to take a back seat to this guy being the rightful pound for pound number 1 at age 38 and being a heavyweight. It's amazing. Let's hear this great piece of sound from the press conference that everybody's been rightfully playing up about Usyk explaining why he is who he is and why he's here today.
Listen, bro, I don't have motivation. I have discipline. Motivation, it's temporary. Today, for example, today you have motivation. Tomorrow, wake up early, you don't have motivation. But when I wake up early morning training, I never have motivation. I have only discipline, because when I wake up, my team too wake up and we go to training. Motivation need only amateur sportsman, not boxing, not professional. Yeah.
Mentally, he is a very impressive person, loves his God, his family, and his country above all else. You can see that in the way he lives his life. Here's a tweet from Luke Thomas, actually, who's on vacation right now, but saying Usyk might be the most talented and accomplished combat sports athlete of my adult life. Rafe, both you and I are not here to try to figure out exactly where he would rank top 10 all time if he is in the top 10. And look, it's once you start actually doing a top 10, you realize how many greats there have been. He does fit, though, the mythical matchup idea really well as someone 6'3" with that skill, that durability. Could he beat a prime Lennox Lewis or Vitaly Klitschko even from modern era? I don't know, but we know what we're watching. We are watching one of the greatest of all time. So if he's got a couple fights left, who should be next? I think the proper judgment tells you Joseph Parker has earned it. He's been on the outside looking in lately of this opportunity. But then they let freaking Jake Paul in the ring. Show this. What is going on here? Now, apparently, Rafe, this was to push the idea of an MMA fight between the two and not a boxing match. And luckily, and if it's an MMA fight, like, do it afterwards. As far as who's left, Turkey tweeted that he wants 21-year-old Moses Itauma, who is going to be great, but it's early in that dude's rise. Why would it not be Joseph Parker next?
The only reason it would not be Joseph Parker is because they think it's not sexy enough, or they think it's not going to make enough money. They can't sell it well enough. If it's Turkey's money, make the fight that should be made according to the, not that anyone actually follows the rules of not that the sport of boxing follows its own rules, or that commission's rules really, they even care about their own rules, but generally in the spirit of the sport, if there is such a thing in boxing, like Parker is on a great run. He's a former champion. He fought AJ and tried to unify. He's a worthy challenger. And the way that I think Usyk builds his resume from here isn't by running it back for a third time with AJ or Fury, guys he's already beaten twice. Even though, look, Fury might always be the toughest match alive for Usyk is in their career span, just because of their ages, and like Itauma might not come up in time to really be there for that. But Parker deserves it. Like, and I genuinely do think that's how Usyk builds his resume from here, in that not just having beaten the big names and clearly put himself above them, but then straight stretch out that run, show people that, yeah, there wasn't some random guy out there who might have had my number, but just never got the chance. Like and also it's fun to see new styles match up in the ring, even if I would make, I would make Oleksandr Usyk a heavier favorite against Joseph Parker than I would in a third Fury fight. But at the same time, Brian, and this is something that all of the UK fighters who fought him twice say, the second time you run into that guy, it's a much worse experience.
Yeah.
Like he already, like he has, like we used to say about his friend and compatriot and former Ukrainian folk dance partner, Vasily Lomachenko. He's downloaded the information.
Yes.
He's got you in the hard drive, and he's going to be way worse. So it is fun to see a new fighter, give him a new problem set to unravel in the ring, and also how they're going to react to everything that Usyk can throw at them. So I would like to see Joseph Parker get it. Joseph Parker might be, all the things he does are a little bit like Oleksandr Usyk, just a little bit worse. So it's not. It's. I see why it's not sexy, but that's sort of what deserves to happen at this point.
Well, look, the love that Usyk showed England in the ring afterwards in the press conference, even though Parker's a New Zealander, formerly sponsored by Burger King, and who would have the center logo on the ring on his local fights. I think you do that in the UK, do it on a turkey card, load it up. They did not load up this one, but I think that it'd be just fine, because those fans make filling a soccer stadium with almost 100,000 people feel really special. The ring walk for both fighters on Saturday, Dubois and Usyk, it really gave me like chills. It blew me away. And I watched it after the fact, knowing the result, and to see that pageantry, dude, like that's everything I love about boxing. Bring him back there. Even when those UK DAZN announcers came on, guys that we've been, watching call fights forever, even as Americans, I was like, damn, come on, give me Grisham, give me that big fight feel. Those guys were awesome, dude. I mean, they not only gave Usyk some major flowers, but they made that fight feel like it was, the epic end to a movie. So Joseph Parker deserves it, and I think he'd give him an interesting fight. You want to do a Talma, give him a big name first, right? Give him a little more than what you have given him, which he looks fantastic. Let's just close out this, and we'll get into the fan segments. We got to bring up what did happen with Todd Grisham on the call Saturday night, and that's when DAZN went to Frisco, Texas. We got to see a unification fight at super flyweight, and pound for pound ranked San Antonio's own Jesse Bam Rodriguez, just 25 years old, put it on a game. Fumalele Cafu to finish him via 10th round TKO. Unify titles, put him a step closer to super fights, which will be first a unification with Fernando Martinez this fall in Riyadh. Not a super fight, but a very good unification. And then the idea, could he fight Nakatani? Could he fight Inoue down the line? First and foremost, Rafe, we know how good he is. But then you watch this fight and you see the wrinkles he's adding to his footwork, to his feint game, to the way he leaps in with combinations. He's fucking awesome. And he's not going to get the pub he deserves on this past weekend, or maybe for a while as his profile continues to grow. But he's really becoming a dynamic, insanely great boxer. And I don't want people to miss this.
Not absolutely, man. The patience in this fight. Cafu was fighting a very negative style, basically going from corner to corner, defending and challenging Bam with, truly dangerous counterpunches. Like he had a nice little game plan to make Bam work, and Bam took his time, banked rounds along the way, did what he needed to do to give himself a cushion on the scorecards, didn't just sort of fall into complacency and be like, this guy doesn't, honestly, imagine Canelo against William Skull, who was doing a much worse version of what Cafu was sort of doing in this fight. But and Canelo just sort of disengaging. No, Bam stayed with him, stuck to him. That was, whenever Cafu tries to relocate, Bam's footwork is so, we usually see it just, we think of it when he does those shifts and sets up a great combination, but it was also in keeping the pressure on this opponent who was trying to make it a really hard night for him and make him work as much as possible, and had some success, but eventually he figured him out and delivered a pretty impressive finish, even though they got kind of tangled up and then it got waved off from the corner. But it was, man, he's an artist, man, and he's so young. He's 25 years old. He could be doing this. The smaller fighters tend to, have shorter careers. It's unusual to see them fight into their late 30s like the heavyweights do. But goodness, Brian, you could take Brian's Brian. Well, I like all of Brian's tweets. You could take Luke's tweet about Oleksandr Usyk from this weekend and apply it to Naoya Inoue. Maybe, Bam Rodriguez isn't that far from similar kind of praise, because they're doing really incredible things and dominating just outstanding opponent after outstanding opponent. He's fantastic, man.
And I have to admit, sometimes, you tune in for a fight, he's great, but you're like, is he really great as we say he is? And then you watch that fight and watch just how ahead of it he is, how dynamic he is. I mean, a thinker, but with real power. He's got a cool look with the tattoos he's adding. He's a badass on top of it, and he beats legends and beats them badly. So continue to soar there, Bam. And hopefully he'll get the kind of big fights that Chocolatito eventually got that really put him in people's living rooms. 5 seconds or less. How disappointed were you that Diego Pacheco decided to box Trevor McCumbee and we didn't get a weird Florida swamp sloppy war?
I'm not over it yet, Brian. I'm down. It's got me down bad.
All right. We got 2 more segments for you. Thankful that the great Rafe Bug's filling in for Luke Thomas today as Luke enjoys a family vacation. Every Sunday night we put out the call at Morning Kombat on Twitter and on the damn Instagram to hear your questions. We'll try to answer them the best we can. This one's called DMs from Donks. Was the sound of a donkey getting off, apparently, and it's disgusting.
It wasn't that bad.
Okay. I've heard worse.
I've looked at a lot of donkeys.
Yeah. I mean, you've probably seen that video in the late 90s that people used to show each other in colleges with that woman and that giant horse. Like, I can't. Okay. I can't. Anyway, first question. What do you got, people? From Nate the Great UK. Oh, sorry. Nate the Great
Lux. Yeah.
All right. I'm sorry. I'm sorry. Here. Small writing. I got old eyes. With how much class was displayed before and after the fight, UFC 318 main event on Saturday between Dustin and Max, outside of those guys, who would you guys put in a top 5 classiest fighters? No order necessary. From an MMA side, those guys are right there at the top of it. I love Randy Couture and all that as just an all-time gentleman, and maybe he'll appear on this episode. We'll see. We still got some time left. Rafe, what do you got on a boxing standpoint? You've been a reporter. You've been an admirer of this game. Who do you think kind of fits that Dustin Poirier, Max Holloway bill of, like, at the end of the day, you just want to cheer for them because they're gentlemen. They're respectful, class individuals.
A real top bloke. I think we got to go. We probably got to go across the pond and figure out who always gives like an Anthony Crolla back in the day. Dazzling Darren Barker. There you go, Brian. I mean, he's retired now.
You got to put Manny in that too, and I love Darren Barker.
But I mean, Manny, we wasn't always a gentleman.
That's a good point. That's a good point. Yeah. I mean, it's hard because a lot of times you get guys that are naturally edgy because it's the fight game, right? But I guess there's a difference between if you press their buttons, they'll come after you and they can still be classy individuals. I'm like, Daniel Cormier to me in MMA comes across on a top 5 of that as just a classy individual, a guy that I like a lot in that regard. I mean, maybe boxing, as Angel Garcia also famously said, it's a hood sport. Maybe there aren't classy individuals at the end of the day.
There are lots of great guys.
I mean, Evander Holyfield was always to me.
Bam Rodriguez is one of the. You were on the call with Abner Mares. I mean, he is another one.
Of these great call.
Leo Santa Cruz. I mean, I'm sorry, I'm naming a lot of retired fighters, but they're all fighters who have been gracious and generous from the homeless man's BC, Rafe Bartholomew, to the actual BC, to all the they treat us all well. They treat their fans great. They are true class acts.
Yeah, I'll put Peter Quillen in there. I love that guy. Caleb Plant. There's been a few of those guys when you meet them and really talk to them outside of the game. You can really build
Carlos
that respect.
Valdemir. No.
Oh, how dare you? But Dustin and Max definitely fit that bill. That's why it was babyface versus babyface. It was great. Number 2 from Flannels and Jits. Where does Dustin Poirier rank among the best fighters to never win a title? Is he a first ballot Hall of Famer? So the latter, of course, he's a first ballot Hall of Famer. He would be under, in my opinion, if they had stringent Hall of Fame credential, stipulations there, like a baseball Hall of Fame. I think he'd still be that. And to me, I think he's number 2 behind Dan Henderson of the guys that never won a undisputed UFC title, but did fight in the UFC. And we talked about that earlier with Brett, what his resume ultimately means. But yeah, he'll be a first ballot in there because he's so beloved and he's a great UFC company man outside of just being a great dude. But he would get in there anyway, which is just an insanely great talent. But sometimes you do get those individuals where maybe they don't get all that way to the top, but what they left behind, man. It's harder in boxing, Rafe, because there's titles going out of style. I mean, Adrian Broner is going to be able to say he's a 4-division champion. I mean, it's a true fact. It's hard. Less titles in the UFC. Let's hear from Von Beckel. What is your guys' criteria for the Hall of Fame? Boxing is a little more stringent than the UFC's sort of ceremonial Hall of Fame, but yet they also let in Arturo Gatti, Mike Tyson, Riddick Bowe, people that you would think actually might have a case for Sergio Martinez, one of my favorite fighters of all time, but I even think with that short elite window, there should be a line in the sand. For you, Rafe, what should be the criteria of what would get you into, let's say, the Boxing Hall of Fame?
I think the number one criteria is like you were getting at with we're Team Sergio here. We're Maravilla guys. All right. We campeon him.
Campeon. Yes.
You have to, the knee was not responding in that fight. We all know this, Brian, but you're right about that. You look at the resume, you're like, this might not actually be a Hall of Fame resume. So I think greatness over time is the number one criteria. After that, there's a little bit of room still for just an incredible peak, but it has to be outstanding. Like you had like a peak that was so white hot, so like historic. Like for those 2 years, he might have been the best fighter I've ever seen. Type peak, which there aren't too many fighters who get that high and.
Well, there's a lot of fighters that'll get high, but maybe not that high. Or you froze out here, Walt Disney style. Rafe, do we still have you? Tell me, can you hear me, my friend? Can you hear me? We'll try to get him unfrozen as we continue on down the line. But I think what he's trying to say is you got to value accomplishments above all else. Longevity certainly helps because longevity will mean that you were on top for a long time and thus the accomplishments will be bigger. But like he said, and I think it's the same thing in any team sport, you have to you can't just be a compiler. There has to be a certain stretch where you were considered among the best in the game, an MVP candidate or a champion in the face of a division. That also helps. The marketability side, the pay-per-view commercial selling side, the grabbing people's heart side, that does matter. And for someone like Arturo Gatti, who was a world champion as well, it was borderline, but no one really aggressively argued against it, because if somebody should get in under that silo and that way of thinking, it should have been a Gotti. But whether you're talking about WWE and UFC particularly, there's like no standards. It's just like, who would put in this year? Oh, everybody, whatever. We got one more for you from the people, and this one's from Niku _ Macronuk. Where do you rank Usyk among the all-time heavyweights and the all-time boxers overall? Such a hard thing to do, especially because boxing history going back so far to the early 1900s, and unlike a lot of other sports, it's aged less gracefully from the idea that like it's really hard to compare George Mikan to Shaquille O'Neal, right? In that regard, just the eras were so far apart in the competition level, and even you can say even Babe Ruth to Barry Bonds, pre Jackie Robinson in breaking the segregation in baseball. Boxing is a little more wide open because in some cases, outside of the size and athleticism we see today, a lot of the champions from many decades ago were actually better because of just what it was then. You're fighting almost every weekend. You've got 100 to 200 fights. There's a boxing gym on every corner. Boxing was at such a different place in the public consciousness and, as a king sport in the 40s and 50s with baseball and horse racing, that it's preserved a certain thing where I still think Joe Louis is the greatest heavyweight of all time. Muhammad Ali, number 2. Can Usyk fall into that top 10? It's really subjective, and you gotta make your top 10 first, and then you got to make the list of the guys on the outside looking in, and you really have to look at it. One thing, as I mentioned earlier, that helps Usyk in this idea is that he's undefeated, that he has a separate legacy at cruiserweight. I don't think that goes against the fact that he only has 8 heavyweight fights, because look what he's done in 8 heavyweight fights. I think in some ways that spices it up a little bit more, but I think the fact that he could compete in any era, that he has that game, that, it's not like Rocky Marciano where you're like, great for his era, retired undefeated, not in a great era, an era where you can be 5'11" and 185 as heavyweight, right? Like a different than the super heavyweights today. The fact that Usyk has swam above water against the super heavyweights of today really would give him a shot that I don't think it's crazy to wonder if he's in consideration now for top 10, but it's harder to crack it than people realize. And I do like the tweets from Ishe Smith in the last 24, 48 hours that really is like, yes, let's give him that. Let's give him that respect that he endures and endures. But you just can't say, oh, he probably beats Ali too, right? You just can't say, even like I said earlier, that he just, he beats Lennox Lewis. We don't know this. Lennox Lewis is the measuring stick that a lot of people use for the idea that let's literally put him in any era with that skill set against any heavyweight, and you're gonna have a problem. He's going to be in that discussion of maybe not accomplishments. You can rank him number 1, although I think Lennox Lewis has to be a top 5 heavyweight of all time. But it also goes to show how hard this is. And I think Vitaly Klitschko is also that wild card. I'm not sure Usyk beats him, but the fact that Usyk through 8 fights is even here in this conversation that we're talking about this, it is crazy. And then when you take his whole resume together and you say, where could he fit in overall, adding the accomplishments at cruiserweight, that's really hard, because it is really hard to crack this is where the changes in rules hurts this era, that back then there were less weight classes and for the most part 1 champion per weight class. So you can have greatness in people that never touched the belt. That means a lot different than now when there's 4 recognized sanctioning bodies in 17 weight classes, 18 if you count Bridgerweight, and we know how many extra bootleg titles get created in there. So I can't give you an answer on there, but I can give you the answer that Usyk has separated himself in this era from those around him through accomplishments and class and grace in ways that's getting really alarming. Now, he only has 24, 25 pro fights, so you can't put his resume above somebody like Pacquiao, who won titles in 8 divisions, but he's certainly up there with it's a difficult science to put a number on, especially with the amount of weight classes, but good Lord. Do we have this man coming back to close the show, or should we save this shit for later? What do you got here?
He's not in here. I texted him. He hasn't answered my text yet. It's up
Well,
to
now,
you.
Luke, can the people hear you?
Yeah, they can hear me.
Okay. I don't know. Did he die? Did he lose the connection? Did the power go out? Is the Bronx burning? What's happening right now?
So I know he wasn't using his phone as his camera, because I did text him earlier and I saw him answer it on camera. So there's a chance his computer died, but I don't know why he wouldn't just answer and be like, yeah, I'm waiting for it to start up. I don't know.
All right. Well, he did give us a lot of good stuff, and
Yeah.
we are runneth over after a loaded weekend, so we can hold the shit to Friday. You down with it?
Yeah, I think you need someone else here to react to it. So
Yeah. So we will run some of that shit on this Friday. I don't know who will be joining us, but it'll be our second and final episode of the Luke Thomas vacation, unless this man is back in the building there.
Oh shit.
There he is. Are you good? Can you hear me?
Yeah, I had to pour a little bit of water on my balls to cool them down a little bit. I was getting a little overheated.
All right, we've closed out the DMs from Donks. We've got one more segment. Is this your debut seeing my shit, or have you done this before?
Are we talking about like in Las Vegas in a hotel bathroom?
Oh, where I didn't flush all the way. Yes.
Right. Or I mean, I've seen you talk about your feces.
Okay. Well, what I did yesterday in the airport, by the way, in Chicago, was I scoured in the Admirals Club lounge. And I'll take that buffet downtown, by the way. They think you're supposed to get like one beef empanada per small plate. Dude, I'll stack that shit, all right? But what I put together was a recap of the good, the bad, and the ugly, the highs and lows and in between in combat sports and beyond, Rafe. I call this BC's feces. All right, Rafe, the aforementioned Dustin Poirier, who retired on Saturday. First and foremost, you always surprise me for being a non-fan of the skinheads over there in mixed martial arts. You tend to know when someone's red hot. What has been your history of Dustin Poirier, like knowing him or cheering for him or anything?
He's a guy that I hear you talk about, Brian. Somehow, he's not one of the MMA fighters who makes it through like the Swiss cheese shield I have of just not paying attention to stuff. But I hear he's a guy I know you talk about.
Yeah, he's a true patriot.
Is he like a real American?
No, he is. He's just a great dude, it seems like. And so shout out to him. But he sat down with podcaster Theo Von talking about the intersection of knockouts and ejaculation. Let's listen.
I've came and knocked people out, and I've not came and knocked people out too, so I don't really believe in it.
Damn.
Yeah.
I wonder if I'd rather have a guy who's already recently
ejaculated?
Yeah, knock me out, or a guy that's full of knock me out, Yeah,
I guess they're all different.
I mean, women do make the legs weak, Mickey said.
I mean, from a boxing point of view, we know what's up. We know, like, that's one of the old, you cannot, you got to hold all that strength inside, get angry, get aggressive. You got
all right. New segment alert brought to you by Mamitas here. I'm going to show you 3 separate clips or pictures of modern combat sports stars, and you try to tell me after it's done, what drug are they taking? First up, here's UFC middleweight Paulo Costa at the press conference on Wednesday.
Yes, you guys know about that already. Everybody knows about that. We have a, mutual hate. After this fight, I'm going to send a message for him. But until there, you need to wait to watch. And because my focus right now is on this guy. So I need to focus on him. But, of course, I have a plan after that. And I have unfinished business with Gourmet Chechen, Shimaev. And, yes, I'm going to face him sooner or later.
I have not seen Gerardo on that much cocaine since the 80s and the Rico Suave video.
What do we have? Survey says White Lightning for number 1. Okay, we didn't hear the buzzer. That's good. Let's go to number 2. Here's Jake Paul ringside at Taylor Serrano 3, and watch what a lackey is passing him. Rafe, what drug did he take here? Here comes. Still in the palm. There we go. I've done that move. All right. What is he on?
I thought he dropped it into the pizza and then took a bite.
Oh, then that could be some shrooms. Then you never know. I guess, right?
My guess is Adderall, right? I mean, you come by, get a little pill, a little pick me up, and he needs to perform it. That's his generation's drug. They're all on it. They've been on it.
Could be one of those like 100 milligram edibles or something. You never know.
True.
All right. Finally, here is Conor McGregor pulling a Roy Jones impersonation here. What drug do you think? Did you see the unit on that guy? I thought he was Irish. What drug was this guy
on? He might be on the GHB, as they say out there. A little too much of that party drug.
I'm sorry. The what's the guy's name? That Triple G beat that was on that. They could travel the US.
Martin Murray. Yes,
Murray,
he blacked out on GHB and spent a whole week out street robbing, as he likes to say.
All right, Rafe, here's our dunk of the week. Let's head down to the Chuck E. Cheese here. Have you ever seen this before? Tell me, please. Oh, facial right there.
That looks like a good. I mean, that looks like the best time since Slam Ball, the original Slam Ball.
Thank you. When Joe Jellybean Bryant used to be one of the coaches, but they never said Kobe's data. They never did.
Joe or Kobe, I love you, Daddy.
All right. Well, have you seen this shit? Has long been a no judgment zone. Let's listen in on this couple.
Okay, if I can travel to outer space, it would be planet Mars.
Wow, that's awesome. But I think you should explore Planet Fitness.
Okay. Okay, sir. That is that may have been AI. I may have gotten God again.
I think you might have gotten
there.
God. That seemed like AI to me.
I got to work with my friend and yours, Hall of Fame trainer Joe Goosen on Saturday. And before the show started, we watched a live stream of his new heavyweight prospect. Rafe, are you aware of 6'7", 300-pound Armenian Gergen the Big Gug Hovinason, who knocked out this tattooed fella, Chris Thomas, in one round on Saturday?
No, this is my first exposure, but it makes sense. You know, he's out there in Burbank, right next to Glendale. You know, that is Armenian capital, USA. I'd see a little bit of the Big Gergen, the Big Gug. Why not?
Yeah, dude, fat white heavyweights with chest hair. Come on,
lots of chest, lots of body hair. Bring it on.
This is Nikolai Valuev all over again. All right,
great inside game. The body hair makes you really tough to deal with on the inside because the opponent is just disgusted the entire time. It gets in the head.
Rafe, we know that you were born in New York. You spent a lot of time living in LA. You've done some time in the Philippines, but you've been calling suburban Detroit home for some time now. Would you say?
This is true. 6 years, man.
Do you have some pride for the city?
I'm living for the city.
Okay, it's got a reputation. Let's listen in.
You know what I'm mad about? I'm mad as hell about Detroit, because in 1960 that was the richest city in America, the richest, and now it is the poorest. And no other city anywhere in the world has collapsed that quickly.
What about Hiroshima?
Okay,
I mean, I'm glad that that bloke is repping for Detroit. He's putting it on for the D because he's like, look, what, like, at least we're still here. You know, like we got some depopulation issues, but downtown is coming back a little bit. The bankruptcy years were difficult, but Detroit's a city on the rebound. Why don't you go ask Hiroshima?
Yeah, please. Why don't you ask Bob Seger how it's going? All right, there. Let's play a new game called Tell Me the Exact Point when you would have stopped this fight as a referee. All right, you ready for this? Mm-hmm. Let's head into regional MMA from the weekend where anything can happen. Rafe, you're the referee. Tell me when this fight should end.
I'm ready.
Still ready? Okay, there we go. A little bit late, but we got him right there. Oh boy,
was he as a more educated viewer there? Was he out as soon as he hit the canvas there on that takedown?
Had the back of the head hit, but even if you gave him one more punch, okay. But that was rough. Let's throw back here. Boxing Hall of Famer and former UFC champion Holly Holm. Tell me when you would have stopped this fight. That's Holm in the green or the blue. Oh boy.
No, it's too early. Let him fight. Let him fight. Yeah, go on, champ. You don't want to go out like that.
They're still fighting. Okay. Oh my God.
Holly. That was Holly Holm?
Yeah. I'm surprised you didn't count. That is just wow.
Oh wow.
All right, let's go to our final fight. Tell me the point when you're stopping this one.
It's over. Oh, he's all right. That actually we could keep going. That person looked like maybe
you wouldn't have done
a glancing blow.
Jack Reese teabag over Abner Maris after Johnny Gonzalez.
Give him a chance to beat the count at least. You know, that person is moving. I would expect you to be out cold or dead.
Let's go to the bumper sticker of the week. Can you please read this out loud?
Honk if you have a fat coochie.
All right, yes. Hong Kong. Hey, remember that time Deontay Wilder lost to Tyson Fury and blamed it on his costume design?
Yes. Yeah. What's that got to do with fat coochies?
Well, we caught up with that costume designer who ain't too happy. Let's listen in.
Oh, no.
I did the clothing for Deontay Wilder. Everybody said they were the best ring walk outfits in boxing history. Basically, it was the biggest fight. He was the heavyweight champion. And he fought Fury. I made this beautiful outfit like he's in Caesar's Palace. I'm in the locker room. We are friends. But there's something weird about him that day. And I'm like, what's going on? I'm like, Deontay, I just made you a $65,000 outfit. Like, you wanted something intimidating. I said, you better win this fight. You hear me? But he wasn't himself that day. I think the component got in his head because if you Google this guy Fury, like Deontay's 6'7", Fury's 6'9". So anyway, he loses the fight, and I'm mortified. I'm like, oh my God, he gets his ass kicked like a rag doll. Okay. The next day, the New York Times, Deontay loses, but the outfit wins, right? And then it says Deontay loses because the outfit was too heavy. Oh, he threw me under the bus, girl. I was like, make it stop. I can't. So every time you get on the cusp of being like really famous, and I'm like, that's my ticket, you get.
Hey, it's good to see Vince Neil still working, right?
You gotta get Vince on this show, Brian. I want more content from that designer. I gotta say, we gotta give the internet credit for calling that right in the moment. All of the jokes when Deontay did his ring walk in that crazy outfit were like, yo, what kind of S&M eyes wide shut dominatrix suit did Wilder get made for this? Like, why is he looks like a 24 karat, like Stanley Kubrick movie. We were right. That's what it was.
That's what it was. Exactly right there. That is wild. Let's keep it going here. You and I we used to play a great snippet of a song by, should we call him Motown legend Marvin Cease, who used to sing, let me lick you up. Let me lick you down.
A legendary soul singer, yes.
Soul singer who regularly talked about smut in his lyrics. Have you ever heard of the great Miss Millie Jackson by any chance?
Sounds familiar.
Okay, get ready to meet Millie Jackson.
If you don't want to feel it, then can I feel it? I want to feel it.
All right.
Is it something I can feel?
Whoa! Yeah.
Feel it?
Wow.
Where is it?
Where is it? Oh, that's rough. Yep.
I see it.
Can you imagine writing this song and being like, this is the showstopper. I'm going to touch a bunch of old men's nuts.
She said he's hard.
I loose your hands. I want to feel it.
Yes. Would you would you
He's going in the pants. You see these guys are super pumped about this. Who is this? Do we know?
Who is this that's singing?
Millie Jackson.
Millie Jackson?
Millie Jackson. Does she have more songs about penis and balls?
Most of her collection is about squeezing dicks.
Give this woman everything. Let's bring her back.
Ray, forget Gallagher. We got to sit front row at Millie Jackson, right? Wow.
I first time in my life I will have plausible deniability when a woman's hand lands on my junk.
There it is.
I love I like that juke joint music. Marvin Cease, what Millie Jackson's doing there. It's fun to listen to. Try out a performer, a contemporary guy named Pokey Bear. You'll like.
Okay,
what
I
you
thought you were gonna give me some Teddy Pendergrass feels or something.
No, that's different. That's a different, slightly different
genre.
subgenre.
There's no
yeah,
dick
come
in
on.
that. Yeah, I got you. Let's go to live TV, especially in South America. Anything can happen. Watch this exuberant fan on the bottom right, Ray. If you checking this material here, wow.
Oh,
okay.
Oh my,
that is something right there.
That is inappropriate to say the least.
Let's check in on our good friend, one-time Keith Thurman. He's got 2 call-outs this week. I want you to react to each one and tell me if it's a good idea.
Boots didn't want Timo. Boots doesn't want Ortiz. Hey, Boots, what do you want? Yo, hold up. Champion. Hey, champ. Champ. Who do you want? You want champs or you want chumps? But someone told me the other day that he was saying he wants to move up and get 2 tune-ups? Undefeated champion getting tune-ups? Did you pop your bicep tendon? Did you twist your ankle, bro? What happened? Oh, man, look.
Boots versus Thurman at 54. You in? Good idea?
Yeah. Not good idea for Thurman, but good idea. Why not? What bad idea? I know there's another one coming, but what's up with his eyebrows?
They're
like super thick, and he's got they look like a certain historical figure's mustache.
Well, okay. Well, also his head is really thinning, as you'll see in this next video. If you don't like that matchup, how
Thinning
about
head
this
is
one?
not good in boxing.
Yeah. How about this one at 54?
You want me to stop making you look bad. You want me to stop stating facts. You want me to stop stating, that's why you stopped throwing punches when you fought. When you fought a real one, you stopped throwing punches. When you got dropped, you don't get back in the fight. When Thurman gets dropped, he come back in the fight. Tell him, what does Thurman do? What does Thurman do? I've been dropped, I come back in the fight. Yes, by Hatley. That's one. Go ahead. Tell me how many times I've been dropped in my career. Count them. You want me to tell the people?
Keith Thurman versus Jermella 54?
Great idea.
You already know that's the best, right?
Outstanding.
All right, let's keep it going here. Coldplay gave us a lot to love, from the breakup of the CEO and the HR lady to the many Twitter reactions. What are your thoughts on this one? All right. Okay. That is that's shameful. That is wow. What a wonderful, beautiful secret they kept.
My favorite one there, Brian. We didn't show it here, but I saw an image of Bill Cosby holding a woman who appeared to have fallen asleep in his lap in that same picture. That one works for me.
Yeah, that is something here. Let's go. I don't know if you're a big president guy. You can name them in order. You rank them on their all that. Well, let's hear this guy's take.
Ranking every U.S. president by how much I'd want to ride in a convertible with them. In last place, we have John F. Kennedy.
Time for your worst T-shirt of the week. I don't think you're getting through TSA with this. Your thoughts?
I wouldn't be trying that. It depends. Yeah, that looks like he's in a U.S. airport. That's a TSA shirt. I mean, maybe some other places you could go through with that, but not there.
Ouch. Also, those regrettable family pictures that people resurface, and it's like, why would you do that? Do I have the right one there? You got the wrong one. All right.
No, this is the right one.
Oh, there it is. Yeah. Wow. Okay. That can't be real. That cannot be real, right?
That's probably real. Why not?
Good Lord. All right. It's Glizzy time. Would you eat this? Yes or no? Check it out. Glizzio's hot dog cereal. Come on. Don't try to act like you're not a hot dog eating degenerate as well coming up.
I don't need to eat it with milk. I don't need to eat it in Cheerio form. No. Hell no.
All right. How do you rate this tat from this next fella? I mean, the sign of the cross thing is a lot, but that is dedication, right?
Oh, he was a crossword fan. Is that? Oh my, no, that's about as bad as it gets.
All right. Also, you know that you're a Detroit guy, so you have Detroit pizza. Have you ever had Chicago style dogs?
Yeah, they're my favorite hot dogs.
Yeah,
sure.
Check this out.
How do you want your hot dog?
Chicago style.
Say less.
Okay, that is.
I guess I walked right into that one.
Okay, so did he. We got one more for you. This is your sucker punch of the week. Check out this homeless guy. Which is nice. They're giving him meals, right? But you got to watch your back on those streets.
Oh man.
Oh,
yeah. That's real?
That is just insult to
What was
injury
that
right
about?
there.
That is that's assault, brother.
Yeah, it is. All right, that's all the shit we can handle for this week. What a loaded, super episode. Thank you, Rafe. You fought through some terrible production issues to give us what we needed in Luke Thomas's absence here. And
like Keith Thurman, I get knocked down, I come back. Thurman comes back. Keith comes back. Rafe comes back.
Yeah. I drink a whiskey drink. I drink a vodka drink. There you go. Indeed. We can find you at Rafe Boogs on the socials, of course. And almost every week, you and I on the Brian Campbell Experience, getting our hands deep inside the box. Anything else you want to sell? Maybe some of your New York Times best-selling books like 2 and 2, McSorley's My Father and Me?
Yes. Well, thank you for mentioning that. That's the one I think that we need to point out right now because, my dad worked at the bar for 48 years and just turned 80. And that book is about his career working at the bar, me growing up there, and how the place works. And if you've ever been there and just want to read about New York's oldest bar, it's a fun one.
Yeah, but don't. Wow, well, nice. Don't undersell it though. There's a lot of emotion and life in that book. It's a very well done. As is your other ones, Pacific Rims, talking about your love for Filipino basketball, and don't forget, Basketball: A Love Diaries. Is that what it's called?
A love story, close enough. You know,
sorry. Yeah. Sorry. What's that movie with Omar Epps?
Basketball. Oh no, what you're all over the place.
Which one's that? With the chick? Come on.
It's Love and Basketball.
Love and Basketball. There we go, right there. I'm sure you wrote that book too. You can follow the show at the social handles below. Those are the extended YouTube channels of us. Also, check out the Main Card Minute with our own Luke Nocita. And speaking of LIL, the handler of our merch these days, whether you like this hat or whether you like this Skits and Bits shirt right now, why don't you head over to morningkombat.shop. New releases every month. Our July exclusives, the Technical Thriller, the Margarita, 3 Margarita shirt, and of course our Lucha Libre poster. You can get them signed. You can get them unsigned. There's only a few left. So get that specific poster while you can, because it will be gone forever. Until November, in fact, with Wyclef. And there you go, morningkombat.shop. Rafe, have they ever given you any MK merch?
I think I actually bought an MK hat. I know I have one. I think I bought it. Or you sent it to me, but I'm pretty sure I bought it because I like to support.
Thank you for the support. We need to get you one of these fantastic Punch Out t-shirts, right?
Amen. Yes.
Yeah, with the great
Lil Mac.
With Luke Thomas, who says, I read books, suck my balls. Luke Thomas. There you go. Okay, that's it. For Brett Okamoto, who did a great job joining us, breaking down the UFC 318, to Rafe Bartholomew. One more time, Long Island Luke, thank you for your patronage today on this long marathon episode. Can we see your face or no?
Here it is. Great show, guys. Thanks for joining, Rafe.
There it is.
Good to
Appreciate y'all.
For everyone here, including Rafe Bugs, this is BC. Take care of yourselves. This show will be back on Friday. Mystery guest coming. Who's it going to be? Tune in to find out. We're out of here.